all-time scoring leader in California high school boys basketball came to an end Tuesday night. Inglewood High School star Jason Crow Jr. scored 34 points in Inglewood's 84-65 loss to Damian in the Southern California Division I regional playoffs. Crow's 34 raised his final career total to 4,718 points, the highest all-time for boys and girls in California high school hoops. Crow is going to Missouri in the fall. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
I believe that we will go from guttermost to uttermost. I believe that we will go from slave ship to championship. I believe that we will go from outhouse to state house to courthouse to White House. I believe.
He served alongside Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. He ran for president. He kept hope alive for millions of fellow citizens. This Friday, March 6th, KBLA Talk 1580 will carry the homegoing services of the Reverend Jesse Lewis Jackson Sr. live from Chicago, beginning at 8 a.m. Pacific. Join us as we say farewell to a giant, a preacher, a warrior, a man who never stopped fighting for justice. The homegoing service of Reverend Jesse Jackson. This Friday, live starting at 8 a.m. Pacific, only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Hold your head high. Stick your chest out. It gets dark sometimes, but the morning comes. Don't you surrender. You hold on and hold out. Keep hope alive. Keep hope alive. Keep hope alive.
Live from historic Leimert Park in Los Angeles, California, I'm Tavis Smiley, and I'm so glad to see you and me back in stride again. Before we get started with today's show, let me invite you to follow me on Facebook and Instagram at The Real Tavis Smiley, and get updates on X, that's formerly Twitter, at Tavis Smiley. By the way, should you miss any part of today's program or want to catch up on previous shows, you can always visit thetavismiley.com. That's thetavismiley.com, or wherever you get your podcast, and listen to the Tavis Smiley podcast version of this live program at your leisure. Another great show on tap for you today. In our second hour, two conversations. Up first, Illinois Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton on her hopes of replacing the retiring U.S. Senator Dick Durbin in the upper chamber, but it's a very crowded Democratic primary. On the B side of our two, former St. Louis Congresswoman and member of the squad, Cori Bush, is back on the ballot once again, trying to reclaim her old seat. We will check in with her and see how her campaign is coming along. In our third hour, The Mixed Marriage Project, a memoir of love, race, and family. It's the new book from UPenn law and sociology professor Dorothy Roberts. The book blends her personal history with archival research on interracial matrimony. It should be a fascinating third hour. But in this first hour, we welcome back our very best, indeed one of our favorite contributors, the towering public intellectual and noted civil rights attorney, Connie Rice. Connie recently lost her brother, and we've been pulling and praying for Connie. We missed her for the few weeks that she's been away, but she is back, and I'm delighted to get to her for the rest of this hour in just a moment. I want to start with this. There is, of course, all kinds of new and breaking news about Iran. We'll do that in just a few moments, to be sure. But yesterday, Kristi Noem, Homeland Security Secretary, made her way to the Hill for a hearing in front of the House Judiciary Committee. The Senate yesterday, House today. I got it backwards. She's testifying today in front of the House Judiciary Committee. Yesterday, she was in front of the Senate. So here is an exchange between Amy Klobuchar, who's a senator, of course, from Minnesota, where Alex Preddy and Renee Good were murdered. Here she is, Senator Klobuchar, going back and forth with Kristi Noem. But just note how, and again, I have a number of clips I could play for you. There are a number of senators who pressed her on this. But yesterday, she steadfastly refused to apologize to the families of Ms. Good and Mr. Preddy for calling them domestic terrorists. Don't take my word for it. Listen to it for yourself.
Do you have anything you want to say to Alex Preddy's parents?
We were relying in the hours after that incident that was so horrific on information we were getting from the ground from our agents.
I just asked if you had anything you wanted to say to the parents or to the family of Renee Good after you called them domestic terrorists.
I can't even imagine what they have gone through in the loss of their son and the loss of their family members.
But how about specifically calling them domestic terrorists without any evidence of that?
Sir, ma'am, I did not call him a domestic terrorist. I said it appeared to be an incident of.
I think the parents saw it for what it was.
Connie, you are a brilliant lawyer, as good as I've ever met. Do you see that, the splitting of hairs there?
Splitting of hairs? Women, oh my gosh, let's talk about evasion and smoke bombs and anything but say what ought to be said, which is, I am profoundly sorry for my goon squad murdering your children, is what she should have said. And I loved what Tom Tillis, who just reamed her a new one, told her to resign. So
again, nobody's surprised by this, but she had multiple opportunities. Matter of fact, I've got a Tom Tillis clip since Connie went there. Miles number 5. Get number 5 ready. Let me know you're ready to go. But it's Tom Tillis clip because he went in yesterday on her as well, as Connie said. You got it ready now? Let's play Tom Tillis and I'll get right back to Connie.
When I say I'm unapologetically pro-law enforcement, you can count in every single sworn officer in Homeland Security. So why am I disappointed with Secretary Noem? Because we're not going after enough people who did this damage at the expense of running numbers that Stephen Miller wants out of the White House. We just want numbers. We want 1,000 a day, 6,000 a day, 9,000 a day, because numbers matter, right? No, they don't matter. Quality matters, not quantity, quality. And what we've seen is a disaster. Under your leadership, Ms. Noem, a disaster. What we've seen is innocent people getting detained that turn out are American citizens. I could talk about the culture that's been created here with Stephen Miller aiding and abetting. I heard first reports that he was the one that said it was a domestic terrorist situation where 2 people lost their lives in Minneapolis. I've heard that report. Maybe you can refute it. I don't know that we'll have time for you to respond because I'm giving you a performance evaluation.
Wow, performance evaluation. Tom Tillis went in, as Connie said a moment ago. Just getting started. Great deal more to cover here on Tavis Smiley.
From the Mert Park with love, this is Tavis Smiley.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
Hi, I'm Tavis Smiley, and I have some news. The room is full. Our founding members cohort on the art of conversation has begun, and I could not be more energized by the professionals who said yes to mastering the craft. Their dedication to curating great conversations reminds me why I do this work. Now, if you wanted to join us and did not make it in time, I want you to hear this. The next cohort is coming. I do not have the firm dates yet, but I do have a waiting list. And everyone on that list will receive early access and special discounts when enrollment opens. After almost 40 years of interviewing world leaders and cultural icons, I am teaching everything I know. Don't miss your chance to be in the next room. Go to TavisTalks.com and get on the waiting list right now. That's TavisTalks.com. The conversation continues. Will you be part of it?
Yeah, man.
Don't you wish your life came with a warning app?
Stop. That dog does not want to be petted.
Just a little heads up before something bad happens.
Move your coffee cup away from your computer.
Oh, no.
So you can have more control.
Stop. You're texting your boss by mistake.
Uh-oh. Well, life doesn't always give you time to change the outcome, but prediabetes does. With early diagnosis and a few healthy changes like managing your weight, getting active, stopping smoking, and eating healthier, you can stop prediabetes before it leads to type 2 diabetes. It's easy to learn your risk. Take the 1-minute test today at doihaveprediabetes.org.
Warning, the cap is loose on that catch-up.
Ugh. Don't wait. You have the power to change the outcome. Visit doihaveprediabetes.org today. That's doihaveprediabetes.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its prediabetes awareness partners.
Are you drowning in IRS tax debt? Angela was. She called Civic Tax Relief and saved over $80,000. Felicia was having health problems, got behind on her taxes, interest and penalties were adding up. She called Civic Tax Relief and saved over $15,000. Civic Tax Relief is a professional tax negotiation firm that can protect you from the IRS. If you're getting collection letters, call Civic Tax Relief for a free consultation. They will go to work helping you discover all the relief programs you may qualify for free. James owed the IRS $37,000. Civic Tax Relief represented him against the IRS, and by the time everything was completed, he did not owe the IRS anything. If you are in trouble with the IRS, call Civic Tax Relief for your free consultation now. 800-200-2257. 800-200-2257. Get a free consultation and real tax relief. Call 800-200-2257. 800-200-2257.
Freedom is an endless meeting. So let's get back to it with Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Connie Rice. So, Connie, you mentioned Tom Tillis. I pulled the clip up as quickly as we could. What's fascinating to me, and again, this is nothing new at this point, I should start by saying Tom Tillis out of North Carolina is not running for re-election. So part of his not running gives him more courage and more conviction and more commitment and more clarity to say the things that really need to be said as a Republican. But it's so abundantly clear that Kristi Noem and so many others in this administration, Connie, are just completely irascible and unrepentant. Even when they say things about people that turn out not to be true, they just double down, they triple down, and it's becoming more and more obvious every day, Connie.
Yeah, I refined my WEI from DEI to WEI. I'm now CEI, cluckhead entitlement and impunity. Or clown entitlement. You know, you hire clowns, you're going to get a circus. But let's look at what this is really about. When you have that masked goon squad that is untrained, a third of them couldn't pass a take-home test to get into ICE. Okay? And ICE isn't exactly Harvard to get into. So we're talking about a bunch of knuckle-dragging folks, some of whom were part of the attack on January 6th and were pardoned and joined ICE, all right? So we're talking about a masked goon squad that is conducting illegal kidnappings of American citizens, legal immigrants, undocumented immigrants, and asylum seekers, just sweeping people off, shooting people who dare to have contempt or challenge them in the street. And what is this? This is state violence against its own population. What's another word for that? It's fascism.
Yeah.
Do not mistake what's going on here and why it's so critical to stand up to this particular example of an authoritarian president who has decided he's no longer constrained by anything, the Constitution, the Supreme Court, American people. So let's understand, while Kristi Noem is like a bad imitation of Barbie, you know, I've seen Barbie dolls with more intelligence. She's a joke, but what she's doing is not.
Mm-hmm. Iran clearly is a story of the hour. We'll get to that in a few moments here in this hour, in fact. But it seems to me, and these shifts, Connie, you've been around long enough to watch how this stuff works. Sometimes these shifts are subtle. Nobody makes a big announcement. We saw, of course, Tom Homan draw down the number of people the number of ICE agents, that is, in Minneapolis. Mr. Homan drew that number down. And that's the last time you really saw a big story about this. Christian Noem finally gets grilled yesterday on the Hill, refuses again to apologize to the families of Ms. Good or Mr. Preddy. But my sense is that fascism, this particular iteration of that state-sponsored violence against its own citizens, seems to be tamped down a bit. And maybe that's my misread. Maybe it's just tamped down at the moment. But again, sometimes these shifts are subtle. They won't come out and say we screwed up, we made a mistake. But you see them quietly start to pivot away from it, given what the poll numbers are telling them. Am I overreading the situation?
We can't know because they don't tell us really what they're doing. I suspect they're just redeploying them elsewhere, and actually building up for another offensive. And it'll be a shock and awe fire hose. Instead of just Minneapolis, they'll do 5 cities at once, and then no one will be able to respond because it's too much. That's also what fascists do: flood the zone, fire hose of lies. That's what Russia does. That's what Putin does. And if anybody even looks like they're going to raise a question, they get pushed out of a window, right?
Yeah.
So I don't trust anything that they're saying that they do. Everything they tell you that they're doing the opposite.
Yeah. We did see, of course, in his recent speech, State of the Union address, he doubled down on immigration. I discussed this with someone else while you were out, Connie, but not you, so I'm going to get your take on this. I'm noticing a distinction between the way, distinction in the way they're approaching this. I think they're starting to get the message that, at least this is their belief, that they can ride the issue of immigration. That is to say, people coming across the borders illegally. Trump, again, triple down on that in his speech about these immigrants killing people. They're still doing that. They're still advancing that particular message, while, again, it seems like they've turned the volume down on these ICE agents in various cities. Again, I hear your point. It could all turn back up very quickly, but you see the distinction here. He still wants to ride this issue of immigration. He still thinks Donald Trump does. That's a winning issue for him, just not leaning so hard in on the ICE agent thing.
That's right. It's a deflection.
Yeah.
It's a headline management tactic. So I think you're right. I think what's smart about what you said is that you focus on the border as one thing. The border is not immigration.
Right.
The border, separate border from immigration. Everybody wants safe borders. They don't want mass deportations that are sweeping up American citizens, doing violence to urban economies, urban people. This is really what they plan in Project 2025. They told us they were going to do this. Mass deportation is a way to force people of color to self-deport. I look at this as a sophisticated ethnic cleansing campaign. It's Make America White Again, which is part of Project 2025 and part of the straight, white, male Christian nationalist movement that Trump represents. That's why they're fine Nazis on both sides, because they're part of that tent. And so this is clearly racially animated. It's ethnically animated. They may not be going directly after African Americans, but we're not far behind Latinos.
Oh, yeah.
So the Supreme Court having licensed racial profiling, telling ICE, well, it's okay if brown people look out of place and speak with accents. You can round them up, too. So you've had a court is a handmaiden to racial profiling now. And as I said, in the thing we were on together to Tavis a couple of days ago, I said, in addition to driving while black, we now have living while brown, sanctioned by the Supreme Court. Yeah. So all of this is part and parcel of an effort to turn back the time to, I say, the 1850s.
Yeah.
Because when you see that they're eviscerating every single civil rights law that was achieved in the 1960s, which I consider the third founding of this nation. The third founders of this nation are Martin Luther King Jr., Thurgood Marshall, and Fannie Lou Hamer, just to be clear. That's the third founding. They're undoing the third founding of this country. And only 61 years that we have been a full voting participation. I won't call it a democracy. We're an experiment. We have never achieved full-fledged democracy, but we did achieve full-fledged voting with the Voting Rights Act, which the Supreme Court, Tavis, is about to deliver a death knell, too.
Yeah. No question. We're waiting on that. Not with bated breath, but we're waiting nonetheless. Connie just referenced an event that took place here in L.A. Just a few days ago. It's an annual event. It's a big event, and Connie was the keynote speaker. Following her keynote speech, I joined a panel, and we sort of offered our own reflections and thoughts on what Connie had to say, and covered a few other issues. Given that yesterday there were elections across the country, when we come forward later in this hour, I'm going to ask Connie if there are any takeaways that she saw from yesterday's elections. The last time we did this, Democrats had some pretty nice takeaways from what these election results were saying and what they were pointing to, and the energy that they were that was coming forth. And all told, there were some good signs that Democrats took about what they could accomplish. Can accomplish in November. So I'll ask her a little bit later in this hour, are there any signs from yesterday that she's encouraged by from these elections across the country in key states and key places, number one. And then I'm going to ask her, I'll give her time now so we'll get to it later in the hour when she has time to pull up her notes. But she ran through a pretty amazing list at this speech the other day here in L.A. of a dozen or so things we need to do right now. When I was on Tom Joyner many years ago, one of the most popular features of my regular commentary on Tom Joyner is a list I would do every so often of what black folk need to do right now. That was my topic, my theme. What black folk need to do right now. And I would run that list. It was one of the more popular features of my 12 years on Tom Joyner. Connie did a version of that the other day, what we need to do, not just black people, what we need to do right about now. There were a dozen or so things on that list. I'm going to ask Connie if she can, later in this hour, reprise some of those items, because it's great to be in a conversation with somebody that tells you, you know, they can tell you what the situation is. They can give you the diagnosis, but what is the prognosis? So what Connie did the other day brilliantly was not just diagnosis, but prognosis. Here's what we need to do in this present moment. I was really impressed with it, and the panel had a field day, just sort of again unpacking and opining on what Connie had presented in her keynote speech. I'll let her do some of that later in this hour. You'll want to hear some of these things that Connie suggested we got to do right now. Some you may disagree with. There was some back and forth in the panel discussion after she spoke, but I want you to hear it a little bit later in this hour. So we'll do that after we do some Iran. So first, Kristi Noem and her refusing to apologize yesterday. Again, that was the Senate Judiciary Committee. Today, she testifies from the House Judiciary Committee. I suspect there'll be even more fireworks. You know, the House gets a little more crunk than the Senate does. So I think what you heard from Amy Klobuchar and Tom Tillis may be pablum compared to what she's going to get in the House today. We'll bring you some of that, of course, when I'm in this chair, Lord willing, again tomorrow. We'll see how she gets grilled. Kristi Noem, that is, in the House today. Now, let me push to Iran before I get to Connie's domestic agenda. So yesterday on this program, the last couple of days, I have been suggesting to you that Donald Trump has been doing Bibi's business, that Donald Trump has been doing Bibi Netanyahu's business with regard to Iran. And now this thing is all-out war in the Middle East. But Donald Trump said something yesterday that sort of backed me up. Take a listen first, and you'll get it. Just play the clip.
Mr. President, did Israel force your hand to launch these strikes against Iran? Did Netanyahu pull the United States into this war?
No, I might have forced their hand. You see, we were having negotiations with these lunatics, and it was my opinion that they were going to attack first. They were going to attack. If we didn't do it, they were going to attack first. I felt strongly about that. And we have great negotiators, great people that do this very successfully and have done it all their lives very successful. And based on the way the negotiation was going, I think they were going to attack first. And I didn't want that to happen. So if anything, I might have forced Israel's hand. But Israel was ready, and we were ready, and we've had a very, very powerful impact.
So, Connie, as you heard me say a moment ago, most of us, not just Tavis, Smiley, most of us have been suggesting that Donald Trump is doing Bibi's bidding. You heard Donald Trump say, no, I forced Israel's hand. We didn't see that coming.
Yeah. He can't be seen to be weak, right?
Yeah.
So you know what happened. Bibi Netanyahu went into the White House last May. Remember, he came in and did that visit that nobody knew what it was about. That's
right.
What it was about. This.
Yeah.
He was in there telling Trump, "I'm attacking Iran. We had a great time doing the bunker buster bomb last time, didn't we? Did we? And then he says, we're going to do it again. And Trump just buys it. So do you know how long it takes to get more ships and machinery and war power, military stuff? all in one place. We had more military power built up around the Gulf than we did to invade Iraq the first time we messed up, right? So, or second time we messed up. So it took at least 7 months to get that armada up there, right? So they were planning this, counting on it, and they used State Department negotiations, which Iran apparently was doing in good faith. They had no intention. If Iran had come back and said, you can have everything, they'd have still attacked because Israel needs to attack Iran. The United States does not need to attack Iran. So we are actually in a war because another country wants us to do it. And that's ridiculous. No threat, no imminent threat. I mean, Iran's been a threat for 60 years. What changed? Why now? I mean, it is one way to get the headlines about you sexually abusing a 13-year-old off the headlines. That is a good way to start World War III. That is a good way to do that. But with no allies, no evacuation of embassies, no defined mission. Was it nukes? Was it missiles? Was it Israel? They can't make up their minds. They have 1,000 civilians already killed, 6 Americans, so no briefing of the American people, even though we had the State of the Union address. There's an acronym, Tavis, you and I know from our military days as kids in the military. FUBAR. Effed up beyond all recognition. That's the zip code we're in right now.
Yeah. So that was Donald Trump. You heard Connie say he can't appear to be weak, so he just went all in. No, they didn't force my hand. I forced their hand. Okay, Mr. President. Here's your Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, saying we ain't done yet.
What's about to, you're about to see, we're going to unleash Chang on these people in the next few hours and days. You're going to really begin to perceive a change in the scope and in the intensity of these attacks as, frankly, the two most powerful air forces in the world take apart this terroristic regime and defang it and take away its ability to threaten its neighbors or hide behind a zone of immunity that allows them to develop their nuclear ambitions. This terroristic, radical, cleric-led regime cannot be ever allowed to have nuclear weapons.
There's a general question of why the president gave the green light, and then there's a question of why did it have to happen this weekend? Are you saying it had to happen this weekend because of that Israeli action?
No, this weekend presented a unique opportunity to take joint action against this threat. And we wanted this to have maximum success. Let me explain to you guys this in simple English. Okay? Iran is run by lunatics, religious fanatic lunatics. They have an ambition to have nuclear weapons. They intend to develop those nuclear weapons behind a program of missiles and drones and terrorism that the world will not be able to touch them for fear of those things. And this is the weakest they've ever been. Now is the time to go after them. The president made the decision to go after them, take away their missiles, take away their navy, take away their drones, take away their ability to make those things so that they can never have a nuclear weapon. That's why the president made this decision. It was the right decision. And the world will be a safer place when these radical clerics no longer have access to these weapons.
I love when people talk down to the media. Let me say this to you in plain English. I mean, you idiot. The insults are just too much for me. When we come forward, one other clip on Iran I'll play for you. We've been talking about the fact that Donald Trump has done this without congressional authority, without congressional approval. I've said 1,000 times that Mike Johnson has turned his gavel over to Donald Trump, as has John Roberts at the Supreme Court, as now John Thune has done. The Republican leader, the majority leader in the Senate, yesterday passed his gavel to Donald Trump, basically saying we may have to put boots on the ground in Iran. We may have to put boots on the ground in Iran. And it's okay that the president did what he did without congressional approval. He said that. It's okay that he did what he did without us being involved whatsoever. I'll play John Thune for you when we come forward, and then we're going to push toward what we ought to be doing right about now in this country on the domestic side and get Connie's take her temperature on whether or not there were any messages positive for Democrats, for the left, from yesterday's election results in places across the country. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Helping to stretch your moral and political imagination. This is Tavis Smiley.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. House Speaker Mike Johnson is blasting Democrats' push for a war powers vote, saying it plays into the enemy's hand as Trump continues strikes on Iran.
The idea that a few colleagues here would try to move a war powers motion and resolution to the floor right now is dangerous.
Democrats want limits on further military action, but Johnson insists Republicans can block it, and Trump has said he'd veto it anyway. The Supreme Court will hear a challenge to a federal law banning frequent illegal drug users from owning guns. Lower courts are split, and the case stems from a Texas man tied to marijuana use. It's the second gun case the justices are weighing this term. And Sean Diddy Combs is now set for early release from Fort Dix Prison, with records showing a new date of April 25th, 2028. He's in a drug rehab program while serving a 50-month sentence on prostitution-related charges, which he is currently appealing. Get BIN News now, on demand, 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Visit Hard Rock Casino Tejon for the $500,000 Luck of the Irish BMW drawing. Drawings every Thursday in March. Hard Rock Casino Tejon, the closest casino to downtown LA. The excitement starts here at the new Hard Rock Tejon.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Lakers won their third straight. They beat New Orleans 110-101 Tuesday night at Crypto.com. 27 points, 10 rebounds, and 7 assists for Luka Doncic. LeBron had 21 points and 7 assists. The Clippers are at home tonight against Indiana. The Pacers come to town with a 6-game losing streak and the worst record in the Eastern Conference. They were in the NBA Finals last season. The career of the all-time scoring leader in California high school boys basketball came to an end Tuesday night. Inglewood High School star Jason Crow Jr. scored 34 points in Inglewood's 84-65 loss to Damian in the Southern California Division I regional playoffs. Crow's 34 raised his final career total to 4,718 points, the highest all time for boys and girls in California high school hoops. Crow is going to Missouri in the fall. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
With the new IHOP value menu, $6 is all it takes to go to your happy place, where stacks of pancakes with bacon and eggs are just $6 every day. French toast, sausage, and eggs are, you guessed it, $6. And fluffy omelets come with a side of pancakes and only cost $6. Go to your happy plates every day at IHOP. $7 in some locations. Available every day for a limited time at participating restaurants in the U.S. Hours may vary. No substitutions. Not valid with other discounts or promotions. Prices may vary.
Are you 50 or older? This news is for you. The CDC recommends you get vaccinated against pneumococcal pneumonia. Even if you're healthy, your age puts you at risk. People 50 or older are over 6 times more likely to be hospitalized with pneumococcal pneumonia compared to adults 18 to 49. Just one shot can help protect you. Learn more and schedule at vaxassist.com. That's VAXassist.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
LifeSource Water is celebrating their 42nd anniversary sale. Save up to $1,500 off the purchase of your new system. Call their local factory at 1-800-WATER-99 or visit lifesourcewater.com. Ends March 31st. Warranty limitations apply.
When your car is making a strange noise, no matter what it is, you can't just pretend it's not happening.
That's an interesting sound.
It's like your mental health. If you're struggling and feeling overwhelmed, it's important to do something about it. It can be as simple as talking to someone in your community, or just taking a deep, calming breath when you need it. Nice. For mental health resources, check out loveyourmindtoday.org. At loveyourmindtoday.org, you'll find information that may help you get through a tough time. Things like tips for dealing with stress, how to navigate difficulties like financial worries, anger, substance use, and more. You can also find real stories of how people navigated their own mental health challenges. Because once you start to address the problem, you can go so much further. Visit loveyourmindtoday.org. That's loveyourmindtoday.org. Brought to you by the Huntsman Mental Health Institute and the Ad Council.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 is connecting you with services and solutions. Domestic violence and family violence is when someone in an intimate or family relationship tries to gain or maintain power and control over another through a wide range of abusive behaviors. Every single act may amount to abuse. Abuse can take on various forms: psychological and emotional, physical and economic, and sexual abuse. The Genesee Center in Incorporated is a nationally recognized nonprofit domestic violence prevention and intervention organization, housing women and children from 30 days up to 2 years through emergency and transitional shelters. The Genesee Center also provides support services like mental health counseling, life skills classes, computer training, job referrals, after-school programs for children, field trips, tutoring, and comprehensive direct legal services. If you need help or you'd like to donate or volunteer, call the Genesee Hotline, 1-800-479-7328. That's 1-800-479-7328, or visit Genesee.org. Everyone has the right to be safe. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Sometimes he fails at fitting in, but we're okay with that. You're inside the Tavis Smiley Show.
You are indeed with Connie Rice. Looking during the break, looking at some of the questions that are coming in from people all around the country. And there are 2 or 3 I pulled out that I want to get to Connie right quick here after I do what I promised, which is to play the clip of John Thune yesterday turning over his gavel to Donald Trump. Take a listen.
The president has not ruled out boots on the ground. He has said that this could go on for a long period of time. 6 American service members have already been killed. Where is Congress? When does Congress weigh in here?
Well, Congress obviously, as you know, has the power of the purse. The president has broad authorities under Article 2 of the Constitution when it comes to defending America's national security interest. And the authority that he is using is very similar to that used by President Obama in Libya, going back prior to that, previous administrations. So, obviously, I don't think the president probably is going to take options off the table. You don't want to telegraph to your enemies what you will or will not do. But I think that they are achieving great success with what they've done so far. And it's targeted, of course, at naval and air assets in that region that the Iranians currently possess, ballistic missiles that could do great damage to Americans and to our allies in the region. And so I think once that has been achieved, once those objectives have been achieved, there are a lot of questions about what happens next. And I think, frankly, that's going to be largely up to the Iranian people. But this will eliminate the threat that is posed that could kill countless numbers of Americans. There is no country in the world that has more American blood on its hands than Iran. So I think the president was perfectly within his rights to take the steps that he took. I think it was a necessary step in order to protect American lives.
So, Connie, there you have John Thune. He's on the list of other presidents who've used the War Powers Act, what he was referring to. And indeed, he's right about that. But it is amazing to me, as I said the other day, that they've just let Donald Trump roll them on this. And it'd be different if this was the only thing that he was rolling them on. So you use the War Powers Act because as president you can. But they've been getting rolled by him on every single thing. There's a long litany of things that they have just surrendered their accountability, their authority to Donald Trump on, and this is just the latest, Connie.
It is, and he's wrong. Thune is totally wrong on everything he said. Everything you heard, ladies and gentlemen, just strike it. Strike it from the record, number one. Number two, it is not the President's War Powers Act. He has no War Powers Act. Congress declares war. That is a congressional power under the Constitution. It is not the President's. He's supposed to come to the Congress and say, he can, if there's an imminent threat, launch attacks. There was no imminent threat. His own CIA said to the Gang of Eight in Congress, no, there was no. It's the same threat they posed for the last 60 years. So he had no grounds for launching this war. Number one. Number two, Congress is just posse comitatus. How about possum commies? They just roll over and play dead. Mm-hmm. They may as well not exist, which is why you're going to see, I think, in the midterms, some pushback, because we only have one branch of government that's operating, and the Supreme Court and the judiciary operating at half throttle.
Nope, I think you're right about that. One final question on this Iran piece. I see a few of them, but this one jumps out right quick. Connie, the U.S. has been helping Ukraine fight their war for years. Why is that more acceptable for Democrats than the Iran situation?
Because the Ukrainians are fighting for freedom. They're fighting for the preservation of individual liberty, personal freedom, individual rule of law, democracy. against a murderous tyrant like Putin. Okay, Russia isn't a country. It's a kleptocracy that has been stolen by Putin and his oligarchs. Okay, we're fighting against tyranny the same way we did in World War II. That, to me, is the only legitimate war that this country has fought since World War II. So bottom line, that's why we're fighting. That's why we need to back Ukraine. This nonsense of attacking Iran when Iran was at the table and sent the minister of Oman, the foreign minister of Oman, was on our Sunday shows this past Sunday, Tavis. Why? Because he didn't trust Trump's fake negotiators, his golf buddy, Wicker, whatever his name is, and his son-in-law, who were taking back lies to the White House saying that the Iranians had nuclear weapons and giving them lies to justify going along with Bibi Netanyahu's plan that he said he was going forward no matter what the United States did. So you got to understand that the Iranians were ready to call uncle and say, we'll give you what you want. And Trump had to hurry up and bomb because he couldn't accept that message. Mm-hmm. So it was pretext. It was fake negotiations so that he would have a pretext for doing what he's doing now.
One final question from listeners. Do we think that the Christianity and whiteness of Ukrainians affects why they get more public support than the Jewish people in Israel?
I don't understand the premises of either of those. I'm sure that maybe you go down to the second tier of drivers. There's race is always in there, and nationalism, European nationalism. Yes, there's more empathy for what happens to European countries. That's a given. Yeah. But I don't know how we could give more support to Israel.
I'm with you on that. That's what I was going to say.
I don't understand how you could give more support. We're doing an illegal war at the behest of the Prime Minister of Israel. Yeah, I don't get that question.
No, that is the answer.
I might be a little slow this morning. But
no. That is the answer. Had you not gotten there, and I'm sure you would, I was going to help you on that one. We couldn't be more helpful to Israel. I told somebody yesterday. Somebody said that Israel is going it alone. They've gone it alone for years. I said, no, they haven't. Israel has never gone it alone. We have been there for them for time eternal. And even when we haven't been militarily involved, they couldn't do it without the military apparatus that we provide them. So they've never really done it and gone it alone. So we smacked that notion down yesterday. I digress on that. So Connie, here's my top line question, and then we'll get into your list. Yesterday, the midterms. Anything that surprised you? Anything that encouraged you about the elections yesterday? Anything about that surprised you or encouraged you about what might happen come November?
I was encouraged by the determination of Democratic voters, a record turnout in Texas and other places. I was not surprised by GOP shenanigans. Remember Trump started meddling with the redistricting and redrawing of the lines. Mm-hmm. He started trying to rig these playing fields so that urban voters would be disadvantaged, Democratic voters would be disadvantaged, voters of color would be disadvantaged. And you could see some of the results of that in Texas when in Dallas County, because they had redrawn the lines according to Trump's demand, they didn't get the instructions to go along with the redrawn districts, and folks who expected to be able to vote in the place they've always voted got there and told you can't vote here. So there was a whole mix-up. Urban voters were severely disadvantaged. I don't know that they were disenfranchised because they were given 2 hours, which then it was total confusion. And that is what they're going to do. Now, that's the least of what they're going to do. I think Senator Padilla this morning is getting ready to counter some of the deeper stuff that you and I discussed on that panel, which is that they're not just going to mess with polling places. Yeah. They're getting ready to announce that they're going to call an emergency to call off the election, or if the election is allowed to go, they'll order the military to seize certain ballot boxes because of fake shrieks about voter fraud, which does not exist. Tavis, we don't have a problem with people voting too much. We need to be paying people to vote. Yeah. I mean, exactly. We don't have people who will exercise their right to vote. Fraud is not an issue. It's in 0.0001% of cases that have been studied. People who aren't eligible to vote don't vote. Yeah. So they've just made that crazy. They just make it up as a lie, like they make up we won the last election when they clearly lost it, a lie. Yeah. So I was not surprised about that. Yep. But here's the deal. Jasmine Crockett and Tillerica, they're both political athletes. Congresswoman Crockett is going to do the coalitions that Martin Luther King said, unlikely alliances. They think Benny Thompson and Liz Cheney, those kinds of alliances. We're going to have to get behind those and push and run like the wind. I'm telling you, it's do or die now.
So there's Kristi Noem. More about her tomorrow after she testifies today in front of the House Judiciary Committee. There's the top line on Iran today. And there is your breakdown from Connie about what the elections of yesterday mean. When we come forward for the rest of this hour, we'll let Connie unpack her list. Dr. King wrote that book, as you well know, Where Do We Go From Here? Connie addressed that question in a powerful keynote here in L.A. last week. Where do we go from here? I would put it this way, what we need to do right about now on the domestic side. We'll let Connie unpack her list when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
From California to the Carolinas, everybody's listening to Tavis. More when we come forward.
All the women who independent, throw your hands up at me.
This March, we're turning up the volume on the women who changed everything. KBLA Talk 1580 is proud to celebrate Women's History Month, honoring the trailblazers, truth tellers, and game changers who shaped our world, our culture, and our community. From the freedom fighters to the firsts, from the boardroom to the front lines, from the unsung to the unforgettable. All month long, we're celebrating the stories, the voices, and the conversations that remind us that women, Black women, have always led the way. Don't miss a moment. This is our moment. This is our story. Stay tuned to KBLA Talk 1580, Los Angeles' home for the conversations that matter.
I'm your girl, you're my girl, we're your girls. Won't you know that we love you?
And we're live here outside the Perez family home, just waiting for the... And there they go, almost on time this morning. Mom is coming out the front door strong with a double-arm kid carry. Looks like Dad has the bags. Daughter is bringing up the rear. Oh, but the diaper bag wasn't closed. Diapers and toys are everywhere. Ooh, but Mom has just nailed the perfect car seat buckle for the toddler. And now the eldest daughter, who looks to be about 9 or 10, has secured herself in the booster seat. Dad zips the bag closed, and they're off. But looks like Mom doesn't realize her coffee cup is still on the roof of the car. And there it goes. Oh, that's a shame. That mug was a fam favorite.
Don't sweat the small stuff. Just nail the big stuff. Like making sure your kids are buckled correctly in the right seat for their age and size. Learn more at nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. These are hard times for housing in America. Too many in our community face barriers to safe housing, behavioral health care, and affirming spaces for healing, particularly those impacted by poverty and stigma or incarceration. Rooted in South LA, Ahmad supports impacted communities through housing, wellness, and leadership development. Ahmad provides culturally responsive, peer-led support from transitional housing and mental health services to leadership development and youth empowerment. They offer safe, affirming houses for youth, transgender women, and formerly incarcerated individuals. Therapy and peer support with a focus on healing trauma in Black communities. HIV prevention and care, free testing, education, and wraparound services for whole person wellness. Standing in the gap with health, housing, and hope. Reach out to Ahmad Institute at 323-569-1610. That's 323-569-1610. Or visit amaad.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
And the top-rated African-American talk show host in the nation, according to Talkers Magazine. You're tapped in with Tavis Smiley right now.
Tavis Smiley and Connie Rice. For those who, Connie, did not have the honor of sitting in that audience the other day to hear your eloquence as you broke down the list of things that we ought to be doing right about now, let's see if we can reprise as much of that list as we can. Go.
hey, understand that we're not in a fight to celebrate civil rights. We're in a fight to save civil rights, individual freedom, and rule of law democracy. So get the right zip code, get the right frame. 2, get the right order of battle. Midterms are do or die. No circular firing squads. Get Martin Luther King Jr.'s unlikely alliances, a la Benny Thompson and Liz Cheney. You don't have to like the people who are in your coalition. It's a coalition to get power, blow past all of your personal stuff. It's not about what you want. It's about what's needed to get power. 3, don't wait for the midterms. Continue doing the urgent blocking right now. Spike strip ICE. Why? Because the ICE raids are their biggest show of autocratic impunity, and you've got to challenge it. Otherwise, they'll beat the democracy out of all of us. 4, fund the lawyers, grassroots groups, students, and candidates who are holding the battle lines in the courts, the streets, and the states. 5, and I'm going to combine some things here, stop bringing casseroles to a knife fight. Fight the voting sabotage early and every level, not just in the courts. Do what Senator Padilla is doing. They're not just going to go after where you can vote and where your polling place is. They're going to do election nullification. They're going to have the military seize the ballot boxes. They're going to actually refuse to seat legitimately elected Democratic candidates in Congress. You got to arm voters with the information they need to cast a ballot. That's what didn't happen in Dallas, okay? So, 7, understand you got to tell the voters you're not going to be doing the same crap you've been doing. So do this mea culpa. Own up to the Democratic Party's role in reverse Robin Hood. We are in this mess because both parties for 70 years, through dozens of laws and policies, they funneled all the money up to the top 1%, created downward mobility for the bottom 40%, and left for the top 15 bottom percent, mass incarceration and destitution. Own up to that and offer a proactive agenda for how you're going to reverse it. Don't just give pie-in-the-sky rhetoric and no solutions. Next, stop sending brain cancer to the beauty shop. You have too often, Democrats do all this wonderful soaring rhetoric, and they offer 2% solutions. They tinker, they talk, they take photos, and then they run for the next office, and they haven't solved a damn thing. As I said, borrow some cojones and solve the damn problems. Democrats have to show that they can deliver. We're ruining our cities because we make all these deals with the unions that end up bankrupting the cities. They're paying out all kinds of payments for police departments that are beating people to death. $100 million in payouts for LAPD. Stop that nonsense. Show that you can govern. Reverse the perverse incentives of the labor agreements. That goes under what I just said. Touch the third rail of fiscal responsibility. Democrats have got to offer a blueprint for building democracy, not just criticize the Republicans for trying to destroy democracy.
Hold that right there, Connie. We'll finish to this when we come forward. It's a powerful list. Again, she did a whole keynote about this. I'm just asking her to run through, as she's doing very swiftly here, just the top line of the things that she had really had some good time to unpack in this talk the other day. We'll let her finish the list when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
This is getting good. Yeah, man. Tavis Smiley continues when we come forward. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. 10 Toes In serves as a mentorship and domestic violence prevention program. They support, educate, and empower couples during and after incarceration. They assist male returning citizens to re-enter society successfully and to help them maintain a healthy relationship with their romantic partner. They offer a mentorship support group for formerly incarcerated men. 10 Toes In teaches its Intimate Relationships 101 curriculum at male prisons throughout the state of California. They host sister support group meetings for women who are intimately involved with incarcerated and formerly incarcerated men. 10 Toes In is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. To access their services or make a donation, please visit them online at 10toesin.org or find them on Facebook or Instagram. They are healing lives through relationships. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Real talent is defined by what people can do, not where they learn to do it. So by stopping at the education section of a resume, you might throw away the perfect hire. You might miss someone who has valuable skills to offer to help your business thrive right now and in the future. because the truth is this. Skills First Hiring helps you see talent others miss, like more than 70 million stars, skilled through alternative routes. When you let their story unfold, you gain a competitive advantage, because hiring managers who start with skills are 60% more likely to find a successful hire. See the real person, complete. See what others miss. Hire skills first. Learn why it's a competitive advantage at tearthepaperceiling.org. Brought to you by Opportunity at Work and the Ad Council.
Freedom is an endless meeting. So let's get back to it with Tavis Smiley.
I told you, Connie, this was a tough list. That union critique may not sit well with everybody, but we need to be debating these things. I got 4 minutes left, Connie. Finish your list.
Okay, I'm going to summarize it real quick. Number 13.
She jumped. She jumped to 13. Go ahead.
Look. End money is speech. It has totally corrupted our politics. You got the oligarchs and the silicon tech bros. They bought our elections. End money is speech. Number 16, for God's sake, stop chanting affordability without specific and viable remedies. Voters can't stand that stuff anymore. Moreover, it's incomplete. Just because voters tell you it's affordability, do your own diagnosis. It's not just affordability. It's viability, livability, and most important, Tavis, upward mobility. That's what we re-engineered. We've re-engineered upward mobility and reversed it into downward mobility. That's the issue, and that takes a much bigger plan. Finally, next to finally, run candidates and tactics that are tailored to the local culture. Jane Fonda can't win in Montana. And finally, editing James Carville, it's the winning stupid. Get practical, strategic, and get beyond yourself, because it's not about expressing our identities or talking about our individual fights. It's about getting power to win. It's about getting a coalition that can win power. And after that, we can maybe save what's left of the democracy.
That wonderful list notwithstanding, do you see any evidence that suggests to you that the Democratic Party writ large is prepared, ready, open, interested in that kind of introspection?
Probably not, but they're going to do some of it, and they're already doing some of it. But you're going to have some candidates who are already talking about upward mobility. It's not just affordability. And the problem with Democrats is that they're good with soaring language, but they've got no plans. And they come up with what's doable. They're a little 3% here, 2% here. You know, they're given billions of dollars, and they have nothing to show for it, which is why people don't want to vote for them. They've got to show they can govern, they can deliver.
It's why I love Connie. Nobody turns a phrase quite like she does. And in case you missed it because she ran through it so quickly, write this down, and you can use it yourself. After the first time, you ain't got to give Connie credit for it, because I don't. After I used it the first time, just use it. It's not just about affordability. It's about viability, livability, and upward mobility. It is not just about affordability. It's also about viability, livability, but most importantly, upward mobility. Now, if I'm running for office, I'm taking Connie's stuff and using it, because that's what it's all about. Again, it's not just everybody. That Connie's right. Everybody now, Donald Trump is talking about affordability. It can't just be about that. What about viability and livability and upward mobility? Nobody can bring it like Connie Rice can, and that's why I'm always honored to have Connie kick us off on this program. You did it again, Connie. Love you. Thank you for your time. I'll talk to you soon.
No, you too, Tavis. Take care.
More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. House Speaker Mike Johnson is blasting Democrats' push for a war powers vote, saying it plays into the enemy's hand as Trump continues strikes on Iran.
The idea that a few colleagues here would try to move a war powers motion and resolution to the floor right now is dangerous.
Democrats want limits on further military action, but Johnson insists Republicans can block it, and Trump has said he'd veto it anyway. The Supreme Court will hear a challenge to a federal law banning frequent illegal drug users from owning guns. Lower courts are split, and the case stems from a Texas man tied to marijuana use. It's the second gun case the justices are weighing this term. And Sean Diddy Combs is now set for early release from Fort Dix Prison with records showing a new date of April 25th, 2028. He's in a drug rehab program while serving a 50-month sentence on prostitution-related charges, which he is currently appealing. Get BIN News now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Visit Hard Rock Casino Tejon for the $500,000 Luck of the Irish BMW drawing. Drawings every Thursday in March. Hard Rock Casino Tejon, the closest casino to downtown LA. The excitement starts here at the new Hard Rock Tejon.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Lakers won their third straight. They beat New Orleans 110-101 Tuesday night at Crypto.com. 27 points, 10 rebounds, and 7 assists for Luka Doncic. LeBron had 21 points and 7 assists. The Clippers are at home tonight against Indiana. The Pacers come to town with a 6-game losing streak and the worst record in the Eastern Conference. They were in the NBA Finals last season. The career of the all-time scoring leader in California high school boys basketball came to an end Tuesday night. Inglewood High School star Jason Crow Jr. scored 34 points in Inglewood's 84-65 loss to Damian in the Southern California Division I regional playoffs. Crow's 34 raised his final career total to 4,718 points, the highest all time for boys and girls in California high school hoops. Crow is going to Missouri in the fall. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
I believe that we will go from guttermost to uttermost. I believe that we will go from slave ship to championship. I believe that we will go from outhouse to state house to courthouse to White House. I believe.
He served alongside Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. He ran for president. He kept hope alive for millions of fellow citizens. This Friday, March 6th, KBLA Talk 1580 will carry the homegoing services of the Reverend Jesse Lewis Jackson Sr. live from Chicago, beginning at 8 a.m. Pacific. Join us as we say farewell to a giant, a preacher, a warrior, a man who never stopped fighting for justice. The homegoing service of Reverend Jesse Jackson. This Friday, live starting at 8 a.m. Pacific, only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Hold your head high. Stick your chest out. It gets dark sometimes, but the morning comes. Don't you surrender. You hold on and hold out. Keep hope alive. Keep hope alive. Keep hope alive.
I'm Tavis, Smiley. Glad to have you with us in this second hour of our program today. In this hour, two conversations as promised. We are in primary season, so on the B side, we saw, of course, elections yesterday all across the country, speaking of primaries. On the B side of this hour, former St. Louis Congresswoman and member of the squad, Cori Bush, is back on the ballot again in St. Louis, trying to reclaim her old seat. We'll check in with her on the backside of this hour and see how her campaign is coming along. But we start this hour with Illinois Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton on her hopes of replacing the retiring U.S. Senator Dick Durbin in the upper chamber. But it is a very crowded Democratic primary. She's been running a spot in Illinois that all of my friends have been telling me about. I finally had to check it out myself. I'm actually headed to Chicago this week. I'm sure I'll see it when I get there all over the media. I'm headed to Chicago, as you know, for the funeral services of our friend and brother Jesse Jackson. So I'll be in Chicago for a couple of days later this week, funeralizing him. But just take a listen to this to this spot that she's running, and it's getting a lot of attention for the obvious reasons. You'll figure it out when you hear it.
Trump.
Oh my God.
Vote Juliana.
Trump. Vote Juliana.
Trump. Vote Juliana.
They said it, not me. I'm Juliana Stratton, and I'm proud to have lived my whole life on the south side of Chicago. I'm not scared of a wannabe dictator. I'm running for Senate to stand up to Donald Trump. I'll abolish ICE and hold Trump accountable for the crimes he's committed, just like they said.
Trump.
Trump. Trump.
Vote Juliana.
That's why I approve this message.
Wow. And you approved that, Lieutenant Governor Stratton. How are you today?
Hi, Tavis. I'm doing great, thank you.
Tell me about that ad for starters.
Well, look, I mean, as I'm traveling the state of Illinois and even beyond Illinois, people are so frustrated with what's happening right now. We have a wannabe dictator in the White House. We have an administration that is stripping away health care from millions of Americans, ripping food out of the mouths of hungry children. They're coming after states like Illinois that dare to stand up against him, and rolling back and eliminating DEI and so much more. So I think that the overall sentiment that people have right now is a deep level of frustration, and they're looking for someone who's ready to meet this moment and bring the kind of energy that's required to stand up to this president. And this ad really, I think, captures it well, that I'm that person.
Yeah. So when I'm not in the studio every week, I teach a course. It's an online course that tons of folk have signed up for on the art of conversation. I've done this, as you know, for a few decades now. I know a little something about how to curate, I think, pretty amazing conversations with all kinds of great guests. And so I decided this year to finally teach what I've learned all these years. So it's called The Art of Conversation. And it just turns out that next week's course on Monday is about how to connect with people who you disagree with, how to have conversations in spaces and in places and with people with whom there really is no agreement. Put another way, it's about how we get some civility back in our public discourse. Now, I'm not a Puritan about these things, but tell me how that ad adds to the civility that we need right now in our discourse. Or maybe you think we don't need civility right now. You tell me.
Well, I think what people are telling us, and we see it in the streets of Chicago, the streets all across the state of Illinois, as we have been living under, for example, Operation Midway Blitz, where this president has sent ICE to terrorize our neighbors and to make the presence of the military normalized on American soil, where he is threatening to nationalize elections and so much more. This is not a normal president, and this is not a normal person that we're dealing with. And this president is not focused on how to make sure he's doing what's best for the people that he represents, the American people. And so therefore, no, this is not someone that's doing traditional, let's negotiate, let's be collaborative. That's not who this president is. But what I can say is that, you know, my background is I'm both an attorney, but for 2 decades of my career, I had my own alternative dispute resolution firm. Mm-hmm. And so I know very well the skills of active listening, speaking to be understood, listening to understand. And when I became and those skills have served me very well as an elected official. In fact, when I became a legislator in the Illinois House 10 years ago, I passed 10 bills that I was the chief sponsor in the House. 10 bills got signed into law by a Republican governor, and all of them were passed on a bipartisan basis, most of them unanimously, Tavis. And that's because I do understand the ability to go to the other side of the aisle, build relationships, and get things done for people. And I've continued that work as the lieutenant governor. But what we're seeing out of Washington right now, I don't hear a lot of people saying, let's figure out how to work with Donald Trump. Donald Trump is not someone who wants to do what's best for the American people. He's out to stroke his own ego and help make himself and his wealthy friends wealthier. That is not what the role of the president should ever be.
On that, we totally agree. As we said in the Black church, I say amen to that. Here's my final question about this. So I'll get you on the record here. So let's just say when we come forward here in a minute, I'm going to talk more about the race and the competition and why it's such a crowded Democratic primary. I got questions about that when we come forward. But one last question here on this ad. So let's assume that you win this Senate race. You become the next senator from the state of Illinois, the land of Lincoln, and you're in a congressional, you're in a hearing, and you are questioning, as Senate Democrats and Republicans did yesterday. Kristi Noem, as you know, was on the Hill yesterday in front of the Senate Judiciary Committee. Today she's in front of the House Judiciary Committee, but we played a clip earlier, Lieutenant Governor Stratton, of her being grilled by Amy Klobuchar, Tom Tillis, and others in the Senate Judiciary Committee yesterday. And these Trump folk are, they're pretty crunk when they go to Capitol Hill. So based on the ad that you're running, you're in a committee hearing, and one of Donald Trump's cabinet secretaries tells you to go F yourself. F you, Senator Stratton. How you going to handle that? And how should the American people handle it when we hear somebody tell you to your face, based on the ad that you ran, F you, Senator?
Yeah, I mean, look, we are in a campaign, and we know how to stand up to this president, and we are doing it. I've stood toe-to-toe, standing up to Donald Trump with what he's doing. We certainly know that we have gone to court. We have a wonderful attorney general. The governor and I have been standing up to this president, and we're going to keep doing that. And listen, the energy that people are looking for right now, and I think that you would agree with this, no one is looking for the go along to get along mentality in Washington anymore. In fact, it's what people are most frustrated by, that they feel like people get to Washington and forget who they are there to represent. And I think that with this president just kind of coming in with Project 2025 and going step by step through that plan on taking away our rights, taking away voting rights, taking away women's rights, rolling back funding that help make more equitable communities, dismantling the Department of Education. I think that people are looking for real fighters. I hear that more than anything else. People want someone who's going to go to the mat fighting for them. And I'm going to bring the kind of energy that meets this moment.
I get it. When we come forward, we'll move past this. I just wanted to start with that ad because everybody in Illinois and beyond, I mean, the national media, Politico, everybody's writing articles about this ad that the Stratton campaign is running in Illinois. So I wanted to start with that. I just think it's a dangerous game we play when we do stuff like this. It's cute. It gets you attention. And I ain't mad at Lieutenant Governor Stratton. She's in a race with a crowd full of Democrats. You got to stand out. I ain't naive. I know politics as well as anybody else. But I think that we got to be careful, because when, as a black woman, somebody tells you F you to your face, I don't want to hear they disrespected a black woman. We can't run ads like this, and then when that stuff, rebounds on us, then we get in our feelings. That's all I'm saying, but I digress. More with Lieutenant Governor Stratton when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
Generous listening. Charitable listening. It's why everybody wants to talk to Tavis. The conversation continues when we come forward.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
Hi, I'm Tavis Smiley, and I have some news. The room is full. Our founding members cohort on the art of conversation has begun, and I could not be more energized by the professionals who said yes to mastering the craft. Their dedication to curating great conversations reminds me why I do this work. Now, if you wanted to join us and did not make it in time, I want you to hear this. The next cohort is coming. I do not have the firm dates yet, but I do have a waiting list. And everyone on that list will receive early access and special discounts when enrollment opens. After almost 40 years of interviewing world leaders and cultural icons, I am teaching everything I know. Don't miss your chance to be in the next room. Go to TavisTalks.com and get on the waiting list right now. That's TavisTalks.com. The conversation continues. Will you be part of it?
Yeah, man. Don't you wish your life came with a warning app?
Stop. That dog does not want to be petted.
Just a little heads up before something bad happens.
Move your coffee cup away from your computer.
Oh, no. So you can have more control.
Stop. You're texting your boss by mistake.
Uh-oh. Well, life doesn't always give you time to change the outcome, but prediabetes does. With early diagnosis and a few healthy changes like managing your weight, getting active, stopping smoking, and eating healthier, you can stop prediabetes before it leads to type 2 diabetes. It's easy to learn your risk. Take the 1-minute test today at doihaveprediabetes.org.
Warning, the cap is loose on that catch-up.
Ugh. Don't wait. You have the power to change the outcome. Visit doihaveprediabetes.org today. That's doihaveprediabetes.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its prediabetes awareness partners.
Less monologue, more dialogue. Tavis Smiley continues right now.
right, Miles. All right. I hear the senator saying, that's a Freudian slip, the senator. I hear the lieutenant governor saying, I love it. As she said in her ad, I didn't say it, they did. Lieutenant Governor, I didn't play that, Miles did, my board out.
All right, Miles.
Okay, I'll leave that alone. So let me push ahead. It is a creative ad. It's got people talking. And again, I am not naive here. I understand when you're in a crowded field, you got to do things that distinguish yourself from the other folk who are running. I get it. Now, having said that, one of the things that does trouble me, and this is not your problem, I want to be clear. I am not attacking you. I'm not blaming you. I'm talking writ large because this is not the only a space or place where we see this. And we'll get back to Dick Durbin in a second. I've had enough of Dick Durbin. That's just me. We'll come back to that in a moment here. When he joined those persons that caved on the healthcare piece, that's another conversation. But here's my question. When we have an opportunity to take a seat, and I recognize this is in Illinois, relatively blue state, so this should not be a problem. I hope it isn't a problem. We'll see. But this crowded field of 10 Democrats running for this seat. Again, I don't know what the alternative here is, that we get together in a room, we decide who's going to run. And again, everybody has agency to run. Everybody who runs thinks they're qualified, and clearly there are some other qualified Democrats running in this race. But 10 of y'all running for one seat?
Yeah, well, I mean, this race right now, first of all, I have the path to winning this race.
Right.
We know that primaries, at a time that we're seeing democracy under attack, primaries are an important part of our democracy. And in many ways, they make us sharper. You have to be able to connect with voters, tell them what your vision is of not just what you're fighting against, but what you're fighting for. Mm-hmm. My particular platform is to give the people what they want, because I've been listening to Illinoisans across the state. And what I hear them saying is that they want higher wages. They want access to affordable health care. They want a tax break for the middle class, and they want to make sure that we get corporate PAC money out of our elections. And so that message has resonated, despite the fact that there are so many in this race. This race has come down, and our most recent polling shows me in the lead as of the most recent polling that has come out. And that's because I'm talking about what the people are looking for in leadership right now. Mm-hmm. And I'm really proud that in Illinois, we're so fortunate to have such a deep bench, and voters are so excited right now, and I expect to see a real high turnout. Early voting has started in Illinois, and our election day is March 17th. Yep. So this is all part of democracy, and I think it's healthy.
Yep. Everybody in the country knows the name of J.B. Pritzker, the governor of Illinois. We see him all the time. We hear him all the time. They may not know Stratton. This program is syndicated across the country, so a lot of folk are listening to you right about now. Tell me how this black woman became lieutenant governor in Illinois.
Well, yeah, let me start with my story of how I first became a state rep, because 10 years ago, I was caring for my mother. My mother, Velma, had been diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and I was her primary caregiver. I was in what some call, Tavis, the sandwich generation, and I know a lot of your listeners understand what that means. I'm a mom. I have 4 daughters. I was working full time, and I was caring for my mother. And I've actually picked up the word panini generation, because sandwiches sound nice, but panini, you squeeze and you add heat, because it was the hardest thing that I've ever done. But it was also the greatest honor of my life to care for my mother. At that time, our Republican governor and my state representative were working to strip away health care from seniors like my mother. So I got up and I decided to run against him, because I knew that government should be a partner to people, not a roadblock. And I ended up winning that race against a 13-year incumbent. It was the first time a sitting president had ever endorsed in a state legislature race, when President Barack Obama endorsed my candidacy. So we won, and I lost my mom right before launching that campaign. But she's been with me every step of the way. And here we are now 10 years later, where we are still seeing healthcare on the line. And so as lieutenant governor, I've been proud to serve alongside Governor Pritzker. I'm proud of our record of what we've done. We've created thousands of good paying jobs. We've raised the minimum wage. We've made Illinois a real island for reproductive freedom in the Midwest, passed common sense gun legislation, including an assault weapons ban. And that really is the model for what I want to take to Washington, D.C. And by the way, that's what we've done together. As lieutenant governor, I've provided leadership directly on adding helping us pass the birth equity initiative. I called the governor one day and I said, look, I'm glad that we have protected reproductive freedom in our state, but Black women are still dying at a rate that's 3 times that of our white counterparts. Because of my leadership, doulas, midwives, lactation consultants, and more are now all covered, whether you have Medicaid or private insurance. I passed legislation making Illinois the first state in the nation to require doctors to screen, to be trained on how to screen for dementia. I did that in honor of my mother, who I lost to Alzheimer's. I'm leading the Justice, Equity, and Opportunity Initiative because we know that we've seen the impact of a broken criminal legal system, and we know we can do better. Those are the things that I've done as lieutenant governor, and I'm also proud of that as well.
Yeah. Tell me how you were involved in the role you played in this pushback that Illinois did quite successfully. I've been watching it for weeks now. The governor and you and my friend Brandon Johnson, mayor of Chicago, did a pretty good job when Donald Trump was threatening to come into Illinois, threatening to come into Chicago and take over. And again, they had some presence there, but thankfully we did not see in Chicago what we saw in Minneapolis. But you guys were pretty aggressive in saying you are not welcome here in Illinois.
Absolutely. And, I want to just point out, because I know he's someone that we all are feeling the loss of Reverend Jesse Lewis Jackson. And I know you'll be in Chicago, and I've paid my respects, and I also will be a part of those services. But, Reverend Jackson taught us all here in Chicago. I live on the south side of Chicago, and he's taught us all about the power of the people and how important it is that the people make their voices heard, that you understand that that's where the power really rests. And, this was an example of all of us here in the city of Chicago, the state of Illinois. We got together. We lined up the elected officials, community leaders, faith-based leaders, business leaders, and we made it very clear, we don't want you here. Hands off Chicago. And we know that the federalized troops, while they were sent, they were never really activated in our city because we stood strong. But even with ICE and what we saw with Operation Midway Blitz, the way that I was involved is I've made sure that I've been out in the streets protesting. I was at the Broadview facility speaking out and protesting. I've been at schools, Tavis, helping students get back and forth through safe passage. I've participated in rapid response where people are saying, here they are in our community, because I've built relationships where people say, let's call the lieutenant governor and have her come out and help us. But I also want to mention that in Illinois, the governor and I announced a couple of months ago and launched the Illinois Accountability Commission, because we want to collect all of the videos and the narratives and the stories and the photos from people across our state, because this president will not be president forever. And we are going to hold him accountable and everyone else who has been part of inflicting this terror on our communities.
So I've been around long enough to know Lieutenant Governor Stratton, as you likely know. I've done this for a while, and I've been around long enough to remember a woman named Carol Moseley Braun, who represented Illinois in the United States Senate. And it's been fascinating over the years since Carol was there, to look at the number of black women who have since served in the U.S. Senate. You could be next. What say you about the increasing, slowly building, the increasing number of black women getting a chance to serve in the U.S. Senate?
Well, first of all, I should say that I'm very proud to be endorsed in this campaign by Ambassador Carol Moseley Braun. She was one of the earliest to endorse me, alongside Governor Pritzker, Senator Tammy Duckworth, but also Senator Angela Alsobrooks, who's one of the two black women United States senators. She's endorsed my candidacy. And what I would say is, there's been 5 black women that have served in the United States Senate. And Ambassador Carol Moseley Braun, that was 30 years ago.
Exactly.
That she was elected to the Senate. And I'm very proud to say that I have the best opportunity. We certainly saw yesterday, and I want to acknowledge, both congratulate State Representative James Tallarico on his victory, but also congratulate Representative Jasmine Crockett, on her hard-fought campaign as well. Yep. But I think that, what's important to recognize is that our voices deserve to be present and recognized and represented in the halls of the United States Senate. We made history with 2 right now, and I hope to serve, and I have the best opportunity in the nation right now to ensure that we have another Black senator elected in 2026. And I'll just tell you a very brief story. I talked about my mom earlier, but my dad, Henry, grew up in a small town in Pennsylvania. And when he was a rural community, and when I just lost my dad in November at the age of 92.
Condolences.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah. And when he was in high school, he was not allowed to go on his high school class trip to the United States Capitol because they told him that there were no restaurants that would allow him to eat with his classmates, and there were no hotels that would allow him to stay there because of the color of his skin. And it's not lost on me, by the way. This is not my grandfather, Tavis. It's not my great-grandfather. I'm talking about my dad.
Yeah.
And the fact that his daughter is now running to be the 6th Black woman to serve in the United States Senate and has the best opportunity to be that one elected when we have elections. It just is a distinct honor, and it's an example of how far we have come, but also how far we need to go.
Speaking of Black women serving in the U.S. Senate, I'm sitting in L.A. right now, as you know. This program's heard across the country. For that, I'm grateful, but I'm in L.A. every day in Leimert Park. And our former Senator Kamala Harris went on to become vice president, of course, got in some trouble when she couldn't answer a simple question: how would you be different than Joe Biden? I come to you now to ask you how we could expect you to be different from Dick Durbin. Durbin did a lot of good stuff, don't get me wrong. He just disappointed me and a lot of other Democrats, a lot of other folk on the left and progressives when he was part of that group that caved and gave Donald Trump what he needed to get that budget bill passed that didn't amount to anything, and we still don't have universal health care, and they didn't keep their word about what they said they were going to do when those Democrats caved. So my exit question here, with 2 minutes to go, I'll yield the balance of my time to you, Lieutenant Governor. How will you serve a little bit differently, perhaps, than Dick Durbin?
Yes. Well, first of all, I've said very clearly that there are some distinctions. Number one, I would not vote for Chuck Schumer, to be the leader in the caucus. And I've made that very clear because right now, as I said earlier today, people are looking for fighters and not folders. They're looking for people who are going to hold the line. And I also have made it very clear that I would have held the line on that vote.
Yeah.
Because I think that when you see people's health care on the line, we have to hold. And yes, it's not always easy, but we have to understand that we have to use our leverage and not give people, what do we get out of that, Tavis?
Nothing.
They said we're gonna hold a vote, but exactly. We already knew what the vote was gonna end up being.
Exactly.
So I would say that that's a distinction of something that I've already made very public, that I would have decided differently. And I'm going to be the kind of senator when I get there to make sure that we not only just pass good legislation, not only use my bully pulpit to speak out for our communities, but also push our party to be more courageous.
Yes.
Because that's what we need right now, especially when we look at this administration.
I am honored to have had you on the program. I feel grateful that you gave up 30 minutes of your time to talk to me and this national audience. She's the front runner. There are a number of polls indicating that she could be the next U.S. Senator from the land of Lincoln, the great state of Illinois, which would give us 3 Black women in the U.S. Senate. Lieutenant Governor, thank you again for your time. Thanks for taking these questions. I'll talk to you somewhere down the road, I hope.
Thank you, Tavis.
Appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me.
More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
Why does Tavis say when we come forward?
Because he's not going back.
And you don't have to go back either. Forward ever, backward never. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. About a dozen Texas school districts have voted to set aside daily time for prayer. Mary Elizabeth Castle with Texas Values.
A lot of school districts are already doing the work to make sure that kids can have that opportunity to express their faith.
Advocates say more districts are quietly watching to see how the policy works, and they expect others to follow. 3 West African migrants arrested in ICE raids on Canal Street have been freed after judges ruled the arrests were blatantly unlawful. Manhattan and New Jersey judges said ICE failed to justify the detentions, sparking some new scrutiny of the agency's Chinatown operations. And the Atlanta Falcons have fired assistant defensive line coach LaTroy Lewis after sexual assault allegations surfaced online tied to his time at the University of Michigan. Ann Arbor police confirm an active investigation. Get BIN News now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Visit Hard Rock Casino Tejon for the $500,000 Luck of the Irish BMW drawing. Drawings every Thursday in March. Hard Rock Casino Tejon, the closest casino to downtown LA. The excitement starts here at the new Hard Rock Tejon.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Lakers won their third straight. They beat New Orleans 110-101 Tuesday night at Crypto.com. 27 points, 10 rebounds, and 7 assists for Luka Doncic. LeBron had 21 points and 7 assists. The Clippers are at home tonight against Indiana. The Pacers come to town with a 6-game losing streak and the worst record in the Eastern Conference. They were in the NBA Finals last season. The career of the all-time scoring leader in California high school boys basketball came to an end Tuesday night. Inglewood High School star Jason Crow Jr. scored 34 points in Inglewood's 84-65 loss to Damian in the Southern California Division I regional playoffs. Crow's 34 raised his final career total to 4,718 points, the highest all time for boys and girls in California high school hoops. Crow is going to Missouri in the fall. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
I'm Reverend Gerald, the life coach. Is someone you love struggling with addiction and mental illness? Is improving your family's health important? Want to leave a legacy that your family can grow? Are you ready to enhance your perception of life experiences? Then wake up weekends at 7 a.m. with Urban Family Focus and get the wisdom, opportunity, resources, and motivation to live your best life. Join the conversation on Urban Family Focus Saturday and Sunday at 7 a.m.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black. This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
LifeSource Water is celebrating their 42nd anniversary sale. Save up to $1,500 off the purchase of your new system. Call their local factory at 1-800-WATER-99 or visit lifesourcewater.com. Ends March 31st. Warranty limitations apply.
When your car is making a strange noise, no matter what it is, you can't just pretend it's not happening.
That's an interesting sound.
It's like your mental health. If you're struggling and feeling overwhelmed, it's important to do something about it. It can be as simple as talking to someone in your community, or just taking a deep, calming breath when you need it. Nice. For mental health resources, check out loveyourmindtoday.org. At loveyourmindtoday.org, you'll find information that may help you get through a tough time. Things like tips for dealing with stress, how to navigate difficulties like financial worries, anger, substance use, and more. You can also find real stories of how people navigated their own mental health challenges. Because once you start to address the problem, you can go so much further. Visit loveyourmindtoday.org. That's loveyourmindtoday.org. Brought to you by the Huntsman Mental Health Institute and the Ad Council.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Tired of being locked out of job opportunities and shut down by systemic racism? KBLA Talk 1580 stands with you in fighting for the rights of black workers, and we don't black down. The Los Angeles Black Workers Center is a dynamic alliance of workers, organized labor, community-based organizations, clergy, students, and scholars working collectively to improve the position of the black working class. The LA Black Workers Center takes a comprehensive approach to addressing the black jobs crisis. Their programs promote access to quality jobs, racial equity in hiring and retention, discrimination-free job sites, And they prepare black workers for employment in high-wage career track jobs. The LA Black Worker Center supports workers who need help protecting their rights on the job. They give workers access to quality jobs and remove systemic barriers to employment. And they are advocating for a fair deal for black workers in the new Los Angeles City Charter. To sign up for free career readiness training, get involved in organizing, or learn about union apprenticeship programs and trade registries, please visit lablackworkercenter.org. That's lablackworkercenter.org. Together, we can beat the black jobs crisis and build a more equitable Los Angeles. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
More honesty than you can handle. More empowerment than you can imagine. You're tuned in to Tavis Smiley.
As I said, we are in primary season. We thank Illinois Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton for coming on for the last half hour to talk to us about her campaign, which could make her the next black woman in the U.S. Senate. Now we go from Chicago to St. Louis to talk to former Congresswoman and member of the squad, Cori Bush. She is back on the ballot once again, trying to reclaim her old seat. So I want to check in with her for the next few minutes to see how her campaign is coming along. Cori Bush, how are you today?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
If I complained, I'd be an ingrate. I'm doing well, all things considered. Glad to have you back on this program. Let's make the most of the time that we have. Tell me how the campaign's going for starters.
So the campaign is going amazing. Had I wouldn't have believed that I would be here at this place in the campaign. Like if you would have said this to me over a year ago, I would not have believed you. I thought it was going to be this really, really hard uphill battle. But that's not the case. People are so excited that I'm running, and we are breaking through already.
For those, I mean, everybody knows the story. I mean, at least the top line of the story that you were in Congress and we can unpack they in a moment here. They came after you. They came after Jamal Bowman, and we know the story. But from your perspective, now you've had some time to sort of assess and analyze what in fact did happen. Before I go forward, take me back for a second and tell me what your reflections are, what your lessons are, what your takeaways are, what your discoveries are about what did happen when they came after you and you lost that race.
Yeah. So I walked into to Congress unapologetic about who I am and what I believe. I'm someone who, and I say it all the time, I am the people I serve. I don't coin that phrase, but I am the people I serve. And so I went in talking about poverty. I went in talking about what it's like to live on the street and be unhoused. I talked about being uninsured and low wage and a victim of sexual assault and police assault, and just talking about the things that so many people in my community have had to face and live through. And I was unapologetic about that as well, because I truly believe it's policy violence. And so starting out that way, speaking out against police violence and all of those things, I already had a target on my back. But that's why I wanted to go, so that those issues could be highlighted and we could actually see change. But it was when, I believe, my third day in office, when the insurrection happened, and I sat in my office barricaded and, just waiting to see if, those insurrectionists would come down my hallway. I sat there and I introduced legislation to investigate and expel any member of Congress who had anything to do with the insurrection. And that put me on the radar even more with the Trump administration and with MAGA. But it wasn't until later, when I introduced the ceasefire resolution, that things really changed. And I introduced the ceasefire resolution because, to me, I don't want anybody being bombed. I don't want a ground invasion anywhere in the world. Yeah. And people were really upset with that. And so next thing I knew, I had a friend who went behind my back and decided to, they were approached by AIPAC, American Israel Public Affairs Committee. They were approached with $20 million to run against me. And they decided to go ahead and do it because it was an easy way for them to get a congressional seat. And for me, thinking back, like what was the real deal with that? Well, they didn't want somebody that had been speaking out against Donald Trump, the billionaires, those Republican donors. They didn't want somebody who was trying to alert the world about Project 2025 and what it would look like and how it would impact our communities. And they didn't want somebody black speaking, especially a Black woman probably too, but Black, speaking out against the genocide happening in Gaza, because I was too loud and I was too proud about it. You know, I come from the Ferguson uprising. I know, like, I've been through the gauntlet, as far as, trying to survive, but also being the advocate. And so I wasn't afraid. And so they were trying to stop that. Now, looking back though, when I reflect, it was crushing when I lost, because I knew that, that this St. Louis seat was stolen from the people of St. Louis, that the person in the seat is not meeting the moment, but that's what they wanted. And so I had to realize, Tavis, that I can't sit in my own feelings and hope things get better. No, because I still have work to do. And so I decided that my community means more than my feelings. So get back up.
I have lived long enough now, Cory Bush, to believe this. You said earlier that if somebody had said to you a year ago you'd be in this situation right now, you wouldn't believe it, running for re-election. I've lived long enough now to know that some friends are better in the former friend category. Some friends are better in the former friend category. Let me just get philosophical just for a second. Tell me very quickly what you learned, what that situation taught you, what your takeaways were about the notion of true friendship.
That first, that wasn't friendship, that folks are moved by power, money, status. And no matter how much you help people, whether you're a community leader, an elected leader, someone, with notoriety, or just, somebody on the block, there are no, like, people are going to move based upon what they want and what they need. And some folks don't care about who they step on. But what I've learned though, is at some point, you reap what you sow.
Oh, yeah.
So that thing will come back to you. So beware.
No question. You mentioned poverty earlier and how bold you were talking about it when you first got there. Indeed, you were. I've raised this issue so many times. I raise it again with you now. Why is the Democratic Party writ large? I know there are consultants. I've said this many times before, telling you what I know, not what I heard. There are consultants who tell Democrats when they run to talk about the middle class to not talk about poverty. Why is the Democratic Party writ large so afraid to talk about poverty?
It's mind-boggling. I remember when I entered Congress, I was told, don't say poor. And all. It's like, no, I'm going to speak about that. When you're not speaking to the situation directly, then you don't feel so bad, I guess, because you're taking money from the very people who are causing the harm to those same folks that you're trying to cover up. So yes, you don't want to speak about poverty. You don't want to speak about houselessness and, people who are working low wage and people who are dealing with issues of food insecurity and all of these things. You don't want to talk about it because your campaign coffers are full of money that come from those that are causing the harm.
So you mentioned earlier in this conversation, so I want to get to this right quick here, that we all know this. AIPAC came after you, came after Jamal Bowman. We know that story. What's fascinating for me is what a difference a couple of years makes. You know where I'm going. You have seen this storyline on America's relationship with Israel change dramatically. We'll get to Iran in just a second here, what you'd be saying about that if you were in Congress right now. But I was reading a piece literally before I came on the other day, a piece in Politico, and there are a bunch of pieces like this, but this one's in Politico. And the headline is, Ties to Israel Plague Democrats in Top Primaries Post-Gaza. I'm going to read that again, y'all. Ties to Israel Plague Democrats in top primaries post-Gaza. Now, that headline couldn't have been written when they came after you a couple years ago. But now there are Democrats who are in trouble in primaries because of their ties to Israel. What a difference a couple years makes, Cori Bush.
Yes, because 2 years ago, people didn't even want you to say the word Palestine, and now you have to speak up. Now people are looking, that is a litmus test for a lot of people in this country, is that you will speak up and acknowledge the existence and acknowledge that Palestinians deserve to be free and deserve to have self-determination. And that a genocide is actually happening. 2 years, once Jamal and I lost, so many people were able to see, oh my goodness, like, wait a minute, something happened. And they started making the connection between AIPAC and why we lost. And then people started to say, you know what, well, then I'm going to run. And now we have all of these people right now who are running for these seats, and they're challenging the incumbents. They're on every level, local, state, and federal level, saying we don't want candidates who are bought and sold. So, you know, and it was funny, Tavis, when I introduced that ceasefire now legislation with Representative Rashida Tlaib, do you know, in the first 24 hours after introduction, I had so many. Now I'm a Ferguson protester. I know what death threats look like. But I had so many death threats into my office in the first 24 hours that I had to evacuate my office and shut it down for a whole week in St. Louis because it was that bad. You know, people, even the White House came against us, you know, but now today people are saying, oh, you know what? They were right.
Yeah. So can I keep it real?
Yes.
Can I take it to the bridge?
Let's do it.
Can I hit it and quit it?
Do it.
It wasn't just the White House and others. I have said before, and I will say again, I was deeply, deeply, deeply disappointed in the Congressional Black Caucus in that moment because 2 of their members were targeted, and them Negroes didn't say nothing. The overwhelming majority of members in the CBC saw 2 of their own get targeted, and them Negroes stayed quiet as a church mouse. Telling you what actually happened, y'all. I'll leave it there. I can say that. Cori Bush ain't got to say it, but I want her to know that some of us saw that the CBC writ large stayed rather quiet in that moment. And now what a day it will be, or could be, if in fact she can win this race and return back to that same body who abandoned her when they came for her the first time. Cory Bush could be back in Congress again. Our friend and brother Jesse Jackson Jr., who I'll see this week, my colleague, of course, here on my home station in L.A., KBLA. His program comes on right after mine every day here in Los Angeles. I'll see him put my arms around his neck and try to console he and the family as we head to Chicago later this week to bury and funeralize his father. But Jesse Jackson Jr. back on the ballot. So we could have 2 black people that we've known and loved and respected, both returning to Congress come November. We shall see. More with Cori Bush when we come forward here on Tavis Smiley.
Hope, agency, dignity. This is Tavis Smiley.
Can you dig it? Come on!
All the women who independent, throw your hands up at me.
This March, we're turning up the volume on the women who changed everything. KBLA Talk 1580 is proud to celebrate Women's History Month, honoring the trailblazers, truth tellers, and game changers who shaped our world, our culture, and our community. From the freedom fighters to the firsts, from the boardroom to the front lines, from the unsung to the unforgettable. All month long, we're celebrating the stories, the voices, and the conversations that remind us that women, Black women, have always led the way. Don't miss a moment. This is our moment. This is our story. Stay tuned to KBLA Talk 1580, Los Angeles' home for the conversations that matter.
I'm your girl, you're my girl, we your girls. Won't you know that we love you?
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. The Michael's Daughter Foundation is dedicated to inspiring youth and resilience through storytelling, arts, filmmaking, and enrichment programs for youth and families in under-resourced communities and system-impacted individuals. The Michael's Daughter Foundation is a 501c3 nonprofit providing free and low-cost arts programs to youth and families from under-resourced communities, both system-impacted youth and those affected by the incarceration of a loved one. 1 in 43 children in America have a parent incarcerated. 70% of those children are expected to end up in prison. Through filmmaking, animation, theater, and writing, they help young people express themselves, build confidence, and imagine new possibilities. Beyond the arts, they offer financial literacy workshops, emergency support, and scholarships. Because thriving takes more than talent, it takes access. To learn more about the impact of Michael Daughters Foundation and how you can be a part of the movement, please visit their website, michaelsdaughterfoundation.com. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
And we're live here outside the Perez family home, just waiting for the... And there they go, almost on time this morning. Mom is coming out the front door strong with a double-arm kid carry. Looks like Dad has the bags. Daughter is bringing up the rear. Oh, but the diaper bag wasn't closed. Diapers and toys are everywhere. Ooh, but Mom has just nailed the perfect car seat buckle for the toddler. And now the eldest daughter, who looks to be about 9 or 10, has secured herself in the booster seat. Dad zips the bag closed, and they're off. But looks like Mom doesn't realize her coffee cup is still on the roof of the car. And there it goes. Oh, that's a shame. That mug was a fam favorite.
Don't sweat the small stuff. Just nail the big stuff. Like making sure your kids are buckled correctly in the right seat for their age and size. Learn more at nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Helping to make you the most knowledgeable person in your circle of friends. This is Tavis Smiley.
I mentioned the Cory Bush a moment ago, article I read today in Politico, headline, Ties to Israel Plague Democrats in Top Primaries Post-Gaza. What a difference, again, a couple of years makes. That has not stopped Donald Trump from partnering with Bibi Netanyahu for this excursion into Iran, where American servicemen have been killed. If you were in Congress right now, you'd be saying what about this Iran situation, Cori Bush?
That we are destabilizing the Middle East, that this is in patently illegal war being waged at the behest of the war profiteers and the Israeli government, and that AIPAC is in support of this war. Just recently they ran advertisements targeting the White House and the areas around the White House, Capitol Hill, pushing for this. These folks are not, the people that take money from AIPAC aren't meeting the moment. The people who take money from AIPAC are the ones who are that are propping this up and allowing this war to happen. The one thing about it, I'll say this: the Trump MAGA playbook is the same. You abuse power and harm children. That's what we're seeing. We're seeing them make decisions as if they don't, like there is no history. And so for me, making sure that there is a vote, I would be pushing. I would have been pushing for the last couple of weeks or even longer than that, pushing to make sure that there was an immediate vote on the kind of Massey War Powers resolution. That's the only thing right now. And so we hear that there's supposed to be a vote, this week, today possibly, at least in the Senate. We will see how people show up. There's no other option than to have a war powers resolution where the president is not able to continue to, destabilize countries around the world. And also, our president should not have to look to Netanyahu to decide what the United States is going to do. Why is our president trying to make, why is he like vice president to Netanyahu?
No, I hear you. When we come forward in our remaining moments with Cori Bush, I want to circle back to this AIPAC situation one more again. We know it was AIPAC that targeted her a couple of years ago and took her out. You've heard her commentary. She ain't backing down, her critique of AIPAC, even in this moment, vis-a-vis the situation in Iran. So what's the obvious exit question? You figured it out. Is AIPAC messing with Cori Bush this time around in her attempt to return to Congress? We'll get to that in our remaining moments with Cori Bush when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
What's your quarrel with the world? You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Real talent is defined by what people can do, not where they learn to do it. So by stopping at the education section of a resume, you might throw away the perfect hire. You might miss someone who has valuable skills to offer to help your business thrive right now and in the future. Because the truth is this: Skills First Hiring helps you see talent others miss, like more than 70 million stars, skilled through alternative routes. When you let their story unfold, you gain a competitive advantage, because hiring managers who start with skills are 60% more likely to find a successful hire. See the real person, complete. See what others miss. Hire skills first. Learn why it's a competitive advantage at tearthepaperceiling.org. Brought to you by Opportunity at Work and the Ad Council.
My mom has decided to learn to paint, and she's good.
My dad's now into creative cuisine, and I've already put on 6 pounds.
Learning new things comes with age.
My mom, she started forgetting my name and what we're talking about.
Forgetting well-known things doesn't. Memory loss may be a sign of Alzheimer's disease. Early detection gives you and your loved one time to plan for the future. Learn the warning signs of Alzheimer's at 10signs.org. Brought to you by the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
I can't believe how spotless my floors look after using the Swiffer Power Mop. No more dragging around a heavy mop and messy bucket. Now I get the same deep clean without all the work. Thanks to the powerful solution and scrubbing pad of the Swiffer Power Mop, dirt and grime don't stand a chance, and I don't break a sweat. Mic drop. Mop drop.
Swiffer Power Mop. Swiffer Power Mop.
A smarter way to mop. Try it or your money back.
Made fresh daily in Leimert Park, Los Angeles, California. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Cori Bush, former congresswoman out of St. Louis, member of the Squad, founder of the Movement for Freedom, now on the ballot, attempting to return to Congress. So here's my exit question. I got 3 minutes left. Cori, I'll give it all to you. How is AIPAC showing up this time that you're back on the ballot once again? And tell us more about what you see as your path to victory. It's all yours.
They continue to funnel money to my opponent. We expect for them to do that through shell PACs, some people are saying, hey, I'm not taking AIPAC money, but it's funneled through another PAC, just so they won't, say AIPAC.
Mm-hmm.
So we expect that to probably be the case. But what we're doing is we're mobilizing the ground. I'm able to be in St. Louis on the ground, hearing from the people. I won't have to be in DC this time. So out there fighting for our families. People see this rigged system, and I'm here to fight against it. People are still reeling from the devastating impact of the tornado that hit us last year. They're living through the overreach of the Trump administration and the devastation coming from them. These skyrocketing costs, the rent, housing, utility. I'm the proven leader that's going to bring those results. And so now is the time. And so people are connecting with that message on the ground. People are saying, Cori, I messed up last time. I wasn't with you. I didn't show up to vote. I messed up, but I'm with you this time, and also they're saying, how did we have a fighter before and we let the fighter, we lost our fighter at the time when we needed you most. Well, I'm back. And actually, I never really went anywhere, but I'll be back in the seat in Congress fighting for the people and impacted. The one thing about it is, when people can't feel your impact, then they don't know that you're working for them. They don't know that you're making change. I need people to feel the work that I'm doing in the Congress, and that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, we had my regular contributor, Connie Rice, a brilliant attorney, a towering public intellectual, was on in our first hour today, and she used a line that I'm going to hold on to. I share it with you now. I'm going to share it with everybody. She made the point that everybody's talking about affordability, and clearly affordability matters. Now, you got to unpack what that means. It just ain't a word. What do you mean when you say affordability? But Connie's point was it's not just about affordability. It's also about viability and livability, and most importantly, upward mobility. It's not just about affordability, but about viability, livability, and upward mobility. All those things matter, and it sounds like that's exactly what you're addressing in this campaign right about now.
Yes, I am. And so for us, it's stability, because right now there is all of this manufactured chaos happening that for a community like mine, we're feeling it every single day. The folks that we used to go to for help and assistance, those organizations, those groups are being defunded, and we're already struggling before that. And so I want to bring back the stability, but to be able to bring back the stability, I got to stop this Trump train. I got to stop Project 2025 from being completed. The other 48% that is not completed, I got to work to stop that so that I can help my community to get stable so that we can then thrive.
Yeah, she's back, y'all. Cori Bush is back. She's back on the ballot. And your primary there is what's the day of your primary there, Cori?
Primary is August the 4th this year.
August 4th, yeah. So you got a little bit longer than some of these other primaries. August 4th is primary. We'll be talking to Cori Bush, I'm sure, between now and then once again. But she's back and on the ballot trying to regain her old seat. We will track this race and keep you in the know. Cori Bush, thanks for your time. As always, good to have you on. I'll talk to you down the road somewhere.
Let's do it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. About a dozen Texas school districts have voted to set aside daily time for prayer. Mary Elizabeth Castle with Texas Values.
A lot of school districts are already doing the work to make sure that kids can have that opportunity to express their faith.
Advocates say more districts are quietly watching to see how the policy works, and they expect others to follow. 3 West African migrants arrested in ICE raids on Canal Street have been freed after judges ruled the arrests were blatantly unlawful. Manhattan and New Jersey judges said ICE failed to justify the detentions, sparking some new scrutiny of the agency's Chinatown operations. And the Atlanta Falcons have fired assistant defensive line coach LaTroy Lewis after sexual assault allegations surfaced online tied to his time at the University of Michigan. Ann Arbor police confirm an active investigation. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Visit Hard Rock Casino Tejon for the $500,000 Luck of the Irish BMW drawing. Drawings every Thursday in March. Hard Rock Casino Tejon, the closest casino to downtown LA. The excitement starts here at the new Hard Rock Tejon.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Lakers won their third straight. They beat New Orleans 110-101 Tuesday night at Crypto.com. 27 points, 10 rebounds, and 7 assists for Luka Doncic. LeBron had 21 points and 7 assists. The Clippers are at home tonight against Indiana. The Pacers come to town with a 6-game losing streak and the worst record in the Eastern Conference. They were in the NBA Finals last season. The career of the all-time scoring leader in California high school boys basketball came to an end Tuesday night. Inglewood High School star Jason Crow Jr. scored 34 points in Inglewood's 84-65 loss to Damian in the Southern California Division I regional playoffs. Crow's 34 raised his final career total to 4,718 points, the highest all time for boys and girls in California high school hoops. Crow is going to Missouri in the fall. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
I believe that we will go from guttermost to uttermost. I believe that we will go from slave ship to championship. I believe that we will go from outhouse to state house to courthouse to White House. I believe.
He served alongside Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. He ran for president. He kept hope alive for millions of fellow citizens. This Friday, March 6th, KBLA Talk 1580 will carry the homegoing services of the Reverend Jesse Lewis Jackson Sr. live from Chicago, beginning at 8 a.m. Pacific. Join us as we say farewell to a giant, a preacher, a warrior, a man who never stopped fighting for justice. The homegoing service of Reverend Jesse Jackson. This Friday, live starting at 8 a.m. Pacific, only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Hold your head high. Stick your chest out. It gets dark sometimes, but the morning comes. Don't you surrender. You hold on and hold out. Keep hope alive. Keep hope alive. Keep hope alive.
Tavis, Smiley, glad to have you with us in this hour of our program today, our final hour, and as promised, a conversation about the Mixed Marriage Project, a memoir of love, race, and family. It is the new text from UPenn law and sociology professor Dorothy Roberts. The book blends her personal history with archival research on interracial matrimony. I look forward to an empowering and inspiring hour with Professor Roberts. Good to have you back, Professor Roberts. How are you today?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
If I complained, I'd be an ingrate. I'm doing okay, all things considered, and delighted to be in conversation with you. Before I get into the book, I want to start just with you and I could have a career conversation given all that you have done. But let me just start with a broad question, and we'll spend some time getting into inside the book. But you have spent a lot of years illuminating the Black experience in America, decades. In fact, you've been doing that. Give me the backstory for how that becomes your lane, becomes your work and your witness, your life and your legacy.
Well, I started out as a lawyer because I wanted to do social justice work. I decided to become a professor and to write about issues of racial justice, especially as they affect Black women. In the late 1980s, when I began to read about women being incarcerated for being pregnant and using drugs, I thought that this was a policy that devalued Black women's childbearing and our humanity. And that's what got me into issues about reproduction and gender and race, white supremacy, and really the value that's placed on human beings, the differing values placed on human beings. And that then led me to a book I called Killing the Black Body that looked at the broad range of policies from slavery to today that have sought to regulate Black women's childbearing and sexuality. And I discovered in doing that work what's called the child welfare system. I now call it the family policing system, and the way in which policies and practices and systems separate children from their families. And I don't know, you may recall, Tavis, that when I wrote a book on the resurgence of genetic concepts of race, the idea that human beings are naturally divided into races, you invited me on your TV show.
Oh, yes, I remember.
And we had a conversation about that. I was so excited. I was in Hollywood.
Oh, no.
And so to put it all together, my work has been, since the late 1980s, I've written 4 books prior to this memoir about the various ways of thinking and practices and policies that devalue Black people as human beings, and with a special focus on the ones that target Black women, especially Black mothers. I've come to believe that the regulation of reproduction really tells you who are the people a society values and who are the ones that are treated as less than human and don't deserve to be having children. I think that gets to the nitty-gritty of how a dominant society, or the people in power, treat the most marginalized people in a society. And I think that's the test of whether we have a truly democratic, equal, just society or not.
Let me go right back to that nitty-gritty right quick here. I love the phrase you used earlier, Professor Roberts, about the difference in value that we place on certain human beings. You've been doing this for so long now. I want to ask you that question and get your assessment of how we're doing in that regard in real time. In real time, in this American moment, how are we doing with that difference in value that we place on certain human beings?
Horribly.
Wow.
Horribly.
Yeah.
You know, I wrote Killing the Black Body. It was published in 1997. Things are far worse today. My book, Fatal Invention, which looked at eugenicist ideas about human value and who deserves to have children and who should be prevented from having children. Those ideas, which were supposed to be ended, if not after World War II, at least during the Civil Rights Movement, they are resurging now with a vengeance. People aren't even afraid to say it. And, we have a president who comes right out and calls an entire group of people garbage who shouldn't be in the country. That harkens back to the eugenics era, where we had immigration policies that sought to keep certain racialized identities out of the country, and even to sterilize people who were deemed to be undeserving of having children. Now, I believe that sterilization practices are still, coerced sterilization practices are still going on in U.S. prisons and detention centers. And there have been some exposés about them here and there. Of course, it's very hard to know exactly how people are being treated in many of these carceral contexts because they don't have a voice. And they don't have a way, and they're also coerced in not reporting these kinds of violences against them. But for a big part of U.S. history, these kinds of policies were targeted at Black women, especially if they relied on welfare benefits. And in many ways, they continue to this day. These ideas are still circulating, but they're more explicit in the public discourse from people in the highest levels of power. I think it's extremely alarming, extremely alarming.
You've heard me say before that I believe that every race of people ought to be judged by the best they've been able to produce and not by the worst. Dorothy Roberts is among the best that we have ever produced. And I wanted to start this dialogue with those questions to give you a sense of her backstory if you are not familiar with her work. She's one of a kind. Nobody has done the kind of work she's done in this particular lane. Again, wanted you to understand who you're listening to as I move through the rest of this hour. Now that you have some sense of her brilliance, her eloquence, her pedigree, I want to spend the rest of this hour going inside this memoir. I'm glad she finally got around to writing it because, again, I've always celebrated the amazing work, the revolutionary work, the eye-opening work that she has done. But now I get a chance to get into her life and into her business, and I'm going all the way in as we talk about this new memoir. It's called The Mixed Marriage Project, a memoir of love, race, and family. Our guest is Dorothy Roberts, and I'm glad about it.
Interrogating and unpacking. That's what we do around here. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message. Hi, I'm Tavis Smiley, and I have some news. The room is full. Our founding members cohort on the art of conversation has begun, and I could not be more energized by the professionals who said yes to mastering the craft. Their dedication to curating great conversations reminds me why I do this work. Now, if you wanted to join us and did not make it in time, I want you to hear this. The next cohort is coming. I do not have the firm dates yet, but I do have a waiting list. And everyone on that list will receive early access and special discounts when enrollment opens. After almost 40 years of interviewing world leaders and cultural icons, I am teaching everything I know. Don't miss your chance to be in the next room. Go to TavisTalks.com and get on the waiting list right now. That's TavisTalks.com. The conversation continues. Will you be part of it?
Yeah, man. Don't you wish your life came with a warning app?
Stop. That dog does not want to be petted.
Just a little heads up before something bad happens.
Move your coffee cup away from your computer. Oh, no.
So you can have more control.
Stop. You're texting your boss by mistake.
Uh-oh. Well, life doesn't always give you time to change the outcome, but prediabetes does. With early diagnosis and a few healthy changes like managing your weight, getting active, stopping smoking, and eating healthier, you can stop prediabetes before it leads to type 2 diabetes. It's easy to learn your risk. Take the 1-minute test today at doihaveprediabetes.org.
Warning, the cap is loose on that ketchup.
Ugh. Don't wait. You have the power to change the outcome. Visit doihaveprediabetes.org today. That's doihaveprediabetes.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its Prediabetes Awareness Partners.
Are you drowning in IRS tax debt? Angela was. She called Civic Tax Relief and saved over $80,000. Felicia was having health problems, got behind on her taxes, interest and penalties were adding up. She called Civic Tax Relief and saved over $15,000. Civic Tax Relief is a professional tax negotiation firm that can protect you from the IRS. If you're getting collection letters, call Civic Tax Relief for a free consultation. They will go to work helping you discover all the relief programs you may qualify for free. James owed the IRS $37,000. Civic Tax Relief represented him against the IRS, and by the time everything was completed, he did not owe the IRS anything. If you are in trouble with the IRS, call Civic Tax Relief for your free consultation now. 800-200-2257. 800-200-2257. Get a free consultation and real tax relief. Call 800-200-2257. 800-200-2257.
Let's get back to more of this rich dialogue with Tavis Smiley.
It is often the case that during my breaks, every hour, and of course I'm on the air for 3 hours every day with this nationally syndicated program, I check different socials and things to see how people are responding. I see questions, I see comments. I check our platforms during the breaks, and I saw something that just made me kind of chuckle. And I want to read it. A very simple comment. It says, Tavis, you have talked to smart women all day today. You have talked to smart women all day today. Now, I want to believe that I do that every day, but I take the point of the listener. It is one of those days, and here we happen to be in Women's History Month. I didn't plan it this way. Every day is different. Some days it's a mix of people. Some days it's all men. Some days all women. But I have noticed. I noticed last night preparing for today's show that I had a lineup of nothing but brilliant black women. It's been that way all 3 hours today. In case you missed the first hour, we talked to Connie Rice and with her brilliant self, and then we talked to the Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton in Illinois, who could be the next sister in the United States Senate. Then we talked to Cori Bush, who's running to go back to the House, and now we're talking to Professor Dorothy Roberts. And so, listener, you are right, and I'm sure others have picked up on that. We ain't done nothing today but talk to a whole bunch of brilliant black women, and so I celebrate that. And at our best, that's what this program is all about. Challenging folks, as I say all the time, to re-examine the assumptions they hold, helping folks to expand their inventory of ideas, to see the world through a different prism. And sometimes all of that comes courtesy of the brilliance and the eloquence of black women. And so I'm glad that somebody picked up on that. We've had nothing but black women today, and they're all brilliant in their own right. And so thank you for sharing that comment, and I wanted to just underscore that. All right, now, speaking of brilliant black women, Dorothy Roberts is our guest in this hour. Her new book is called The Mixed Marriage Project, a memoir of love, race, and family. It blends her personal history with archival research on interracial matrimony. Let me just read a short paragraph here that I think will set this the rest of the hour up quite nicely for Professor Roberts, and I'll let her take it from there. So Dorothy Roberts grew up in a deeply segregated Chicago neighborhood in the 1960s, where relationships barely crossed the color line. Yet inside her own home, where her father was white and her mother a black Jamaican immigrant, interracial marriage wasn't just a part of her upbringing, it was a shared mission. Her father, an anthropologist, spent her entire childhood working on a book about black-white marriages, a project he never finished, but shaped every aspect of their family life. Dorothy Roberts, tell me, for starters, about your daddy.
Okay. Well, as you read in that introduction, he was a white man he was born in August of 1915, and of course grew up in Chicago, heavily segregated Chicago, in a white neighborhood, but somehow became very interested in Black people and in interracial marriage. He began studying it when he was a master's student at University of Chicago, and was part of a major research project by a white professor there named Lloyd Warner, but also a Black professor, Horace Caton. And it was the first major research study of urban Black life in America. And for some reason, he decided, my father, that what he wanted to study with respect to this big project was Black people married to white people. And he began to find in the 1930s, he began to find Black-white couples in the Black Belt of Chicago. So your listeners have to understand that by 1937, when he started his project, Black people were basically confined to a narrow corridor of neighborhoods on the south side of Chicago uh, because they were not allowed to live in white neighborhoods. And we can go into this some more later, but these couples then had to live in the Black Belt because the Black husbands and wives could not live in the white neighborhoods of their spouses.
Oh, no.
Yeah, oh no. So I just imagine this 21-year-old graduate student going into the Black Belt looking for Black-white couples. And he continued this project into the 1980s. He was still interviewing couples and then began interviewing children of Black-white couples. So when I was growing up, this was what dominated my childhood because my father was working on this book throughout my entire childhood. And he was devoted not only to the interviews, but devoted to a mission to promote interracial marriage because he thought that was the answer to what he called the racial caste system in Chicago and around the United States.
Yeah.
He not only felt that bans on interracial marriage were to support white supremacy and racism and divide people by race, but he also thought that promoting interracial marriage, more interracial marriages, would lead to an end to racial hierarchy because the white people in these couples would realize the amount of discrimination, realize the humanity of Black people, realize how horrible racism was, tell their friends and relatives, and then the children of these couples would also be part of both Black and white communities, and this would break down racial hierarchy. So that's a little bit about him.
No, I want to interrogate one or two things you said in just a second here. Before I do that, though, I want to point out that your mother, your Black Jamaican immigrant mother, eventually becomes your father's full-time partner in that work. So tell me about your precious mother.
Yes. Well, my mother was also amazing. She was born in Jamaica in 1922, and she grew up there until she was 25 years old. When she left Jamaica with her older sister, my Aunt Violet, for Liberia. And they became Liberian citizens. So when I was born, my mother was a Liberian citizen. And in Liberia, she heard about a scholarship to Roosevelt College in downtown Chicago. And she applied, was accepted, and by herself, she got on a ship that went to Galveston, Texas, made her way up to Chicago, and became a college student. And there she met my father, who was at that point teaching. He was a professor at Roosevelt. Now, I don't know which came first, the love affair or the research, but they ended up doing research together. So she, in the 1950s, she interviewed all the wives, and my father interviewed all the husbands of these Black-white couples. They both kept transcripts of the interviews. They kept notes about the interviews and their feelings about them, their summaries, their observations. So I have in these interviews not only the stories of all these couples, and mind you, hundreds of couples. I have over almost 500 couples in the interviews I discovered from my parents. And they then, so I can see that by 1952, they're doing research together. And I also have a love letter my father wrote to my mother in 1952, referring to a summer of happiness and love. And then they were married in 1954. At that time, this is important about my mother as well. She was working on her PhD in anthropology at Northwestern University. So I think she is one of the few Black women who were working on a PhD in the early 1950s. And then I was born, and she gave up her PhD work and never completed the PhD.
Yeah. You come from good stock, Dorothy Roberts. You come from good stock. So
you're an interesting couple.
So you were telling us earlier about your father's intentions, and intentions is one word. Let me add to that his hopes, his dreams, his aspirations for his work, and for what interracial relationships might do for the nation. I wonder if you ever had any conversation with your dad, or if you can tell us maybe a bit more about his thinking in this regard. I hear the hopes, the dreams, the aspirations, the intentions, as I said. The flip side of that is that this interracial marriage thing could have the effect of diminishing and diluting Black culture as we know it. Did your father ever talk about that, or process or think about that other possibility, the other side?
Right. Well, yeah. So my father is interesting because he went into this work studying, again, what he called a racial caste system, which he compared to the racial caste system in Natchez, Mississippi.
Right.
So he was very aware of racial bigotry, violence, prejudice, and structural racism. He was aware of the way in which Black people were confined by real estate practices and racially restrictive covenants and discrimination and mob violence. This is what he was studying. So it wasn't as if he was naive about the power of racism, even in a northern city like Chicago. But he felt that Black and white people's culture was not really that different. My father had studied West African culture, and I mentioned that my mother lived in Liberia. When I was 3 months old, my parents and I moved to Liberia, and my father taught there for 2 years. I have 2 sisters who are twins who were born in Liberia, and he was very familiar with that culture. In his mind, the culture of people in West Africa was more different from Black American culture than white American culture was. So he thought the only thing that's keeping Black and white people apart is white supremacy and stereotypes and, structural divisions. That was his thought. Now, I have to let me jump in and say I disagree with all of this. From when I was like 10 years old, I was disagreeing with him. So I don't subscribe to those ideas.
Right.
I'm just trying to explain what my father thought, and that it wasn't that he had this, Pollyannish idea that love transcends race. He thought it would do the work of ending, dismantling racial structure and stereotypes and ways of thinking, but he just didn't have this idea that there would be any dilution of Black culture, because he thought that Black and white culture was pretty much the same, that they borrowed from each other. And so, no, that wasn't a fear. Now, something that came up in the interviews, especially in the 1930s, that I wish he had paid more attention to was the kind of anti-Black racism that was going on even within interracial couples, especially when it was a white woman and a Black man. They said some horrible things about Black women. What they, at that time it was colored women, and many of them wanted to have children who could pass as white. Many of the white wives were not interested in ending the racial caste system in Chicago or ending residential segregation. They just didn't want it to affect them.
No, I get it.
They wanted to maintain the privileges of white people for themselves and their children. And there's many explicit statements like this, and I don't see my father being, changing his mind about it. He still thought that there would be enough couples that were against racism, that it would have an effect of ending the racial caste system.
Somebody said hope springs eternal, but with all due respect to your precious father, I'm with you, Dorothy Roberts, and not your daddy. I am with you and not him. What's fascinating for me is that when she discovers this trove of papers and she starts sorting through her father's work, she decides in that moment or at some point not to finish her father's book, and maybe because she didn't agree with her father's frame, perhaps. But she decides not to do that, but to lean in a different way and to use all these 500 interviews to trace the story of her parents and to better understand her own journey and her own identity. And this is how we get her memoir. It's called The Mixed Marriage Project, a memoir of love, race, and family. And we're going to go straight way into it when we come forward here on Tavis Smiley.
For all the freedom-loving folk, this is Tavis Smiley.
I feel like freedom.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. About a dozen Texas school districts have voted to set aside daily time for prayer. Mary Elizabeth Castle with Texas Values.
A lot of school districts are already doing the work to make sure that kids can have that opportunity to express their faith.
Advocates say more districts are quietly watching to see how the policy works, and they expect others to follow. 3 West African migrants arrested in ICE raids on Canal Street have been freed after judges ruled the arrests were blatantly unlawful. Manhattan and New Jersey judges said ICE failed to justify the detentions, sparking some new scrutiny of the agency's Chinatown operations. And the Atlanta Falcons have fired assistant defensive line coach LaTroy Lewis after sexual assault allegations surfaced online tied to his time at the University of Michigan. Ann Arbor police confirm an active investigation. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Visit Hard Rock Casino Tejon for the $500,000 Luck of the Irish BMW drawing. Drawings every Thursday in March. Hard Rock Casino Tejon, the closest casino to downtown LA. The excitement starts here at the new Hard Rock Casino Tejon.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Lakers won their third straight. They beat New Orleans 110-101 Tuesday night at Crypto.com. 27 points, 10 rebounds, and 7 assists for Luka Doncic. LeBron had 21 points and 7 assists. The Clippers are at home tonight against Indiana. The Pacers come to town with a 6-game losing streak and the worst record in the Eastern Conference. They were in the NBA Finals last season. The career of the all-time scoring leader in California high school boys basketball came to an end Tuesday night. Inglewood High School star Jason Crow Jr. scored 34 points in Inglewood's 84-65 loss to Damian in the Southern California Division I regional playoffs. Crow's 34 raised his final career total to 4,718 points, the highest all time for boys and girls in California high school hoops. Crow is going to Missouri in the fall. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, a.k.a. the Voice of Reason, encouraging you to join me weekdays from 7 to 9 p.m. for the world's most intriguing relationship radio roundtable. Every night, I facilitate and encourage our loyal listeners to participate in the most engaging relationship discussions you'll hear anywhere. So make it a point to rendezvous with me, Zoe Williams, the Voice of Reason, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Trust me, your relationships will never be the same. The VOR is on fire tonight.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black. This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio that's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
When your car is making a strange noise, no matter what it is, you can't just pretend it's not happening.
That's an interesting sound.
It's like your mental health. If you're struggling and feeling overwhelmed, it's important to do something about it. It can be as simple as talking to someone in your community, or just taking a deep, calming breath when you need it. Nice. For mental health resources, check out loveyourmindtoday.org. At loveyourmindtoday.org, you'll find information that may help you get through a tough time. Things like tips for dealing with stress, how to navigate difficulties like financial worries, anger, substance use, and more. You can also find real stories of how people navigated their own mental health challenges. Because once you start to address the problem, you can go so much further. Visit loveyourmindtoday.org. That's loveyourmindtoday.org. Brought to you by the Huntsman Mental Health Institute and the Ad Council.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. At the heart of the Al Wooten Center's mission for good citizenship and academic excellence is a desire to ensure that every student avoids the kind of lifestyle and overcomes the kinds of challenges that led to the murder of Al Wooten Jr. In 1990, founder Myrtle Fay Rumpf opened the center in honor of her son's life. In 2026, they are serving more than 300 students in grades 3 through 12 annually online and on site at their youth center and other sites in the South LA area. The Al Wooten Jr. Youth Center takes a neighborhood approach to the revitalization and empowerment of a community in crisis. The Wooten Center provides free after-school and summer programs to help students in grades 3 through 12 attain grade-level proficiency and promotion, high school graduation, and college and career access and success. The Al Wooten Center focuses on academics, STEM, the arts, and so much more. Join them for an enriching experience that sparks creativity and nurtures young minds. Tap in at wootencenter.org. That's wootencenter.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Sometimes he fails at fitting in, but we're okay with that. You're inside the Tavis Smiley Show.
You are indeed, and we are pleased to be in conversation with Dorothy Roberts, UPenn Law and Sociology professor, founding director of the Penn Program on Race, Science, and Society, out with a memoir. It's called The Mixed Marriage Project, a memoir of love, race, and family. If you've missed any part of this conversation, it's been a rich one. Check out the podcast when it's posted later tonight, because you've missed an amazing first half hour already. Again, the podcast of all of our conversations posted every night. So later tonight, check out the podcast, and you can hear the entirety of this rich dialogue with Professor Dorothy Roberts about her new book. Once again, it's called The Mixed Marriage Project, a memoir of love, race, and family. All right, Professor Roberts, we've established that your father did all this research. Your mother was his partner in doing all these interviews, 500 interviews. Some years later, you discovered this treasure trove of all this research material. You delve into it, but decide that the answer to the prayer, as we say, is not to finish the stuff your father worked on, but to write your own memoir and discover your own journey and wrestle with your own questions about identity. Tell me about that decision before I jump straight away into the book.
Okay. Well, my sister sent me 25 boxes of my father's papers, which I had shipped after they sat in my basement for about a decade. I had them shipped to my sociology office at University of Pennsylvania, and I finally decided to look in them. This was a pretty daunting task. I knew it would be filled with all sorts of papers from his long career at Roosevelt in Chicago. And when I pulled out the first transcript, which I thought would have taken place in the 1960s when I was growing up, it had a date of February 19th, 1937, which, as I explained earlier, was when he was a 21-year-old master's student. Now, let me tell you why that was shocking to me. I thought that my father got interested in interracial marriage after he met my mother, a Black woman, fell in love with her, and then was intrigued by this topic. But this date meant that he was already intrigued by interracial intimacy and marriage more than a decade before he met my mother, and almost 2 decades before he married her. So that really raised all these questions in my mind. How did my father get interested in this topic? What was the relationship between his research and his marriage to my mother? What did my mother think about it? What did this mean about me? I'm the product of this marriage too. And I did find a file on myself among my father's interviews of the children. So At first I thought, I've got this, yes, this treasure trove of hundreds of interviews spanning 100 years of marriages, because some of the 1930s interviews were with couples who'd been married in the 1880s. And then he continued the interviews till the 1980s. So, the sociologist in me, the legal scholar, says, I got to use this to write a book of this, about this data. You know what I'm saying? But all these questions about my parents and my own identity were circulating in my head. And so I decided to write a book that was more of a memoir that captured both the stories of the couples that they interviewed, but also the story of their lives and my family and my own identity.
So tell me, I'm jumping ahead here because I'm just so fascinated by this whole discourse that we're having right now. So obviously, long before you discovered this treasure trove of your father's work that your sister sends you, those 25 boxes, you obviously knew your daddy was white, your mama was black. That's pretty obvious. Tell me more. Tell me more then about how.
Very clear.
Yeah. Tell me more then about how as a sociologist you have processed your own childhood as a black girl with a white father. I mean, you're one of our most prolific and prominent, public thinkers and scholars on race, and yet you grow up in Chicago with a white father. That's got to impact your thinking, your journey, etc. Tell me more.
Yeah. Well, first I'll say that even though I disagreed with my father about the power of interracial marriage to end racism, there was a more fundamental foundation of his mission, which was the belief that there's only one human race, that we have a common humanity, and we must respect and value all human beings equally. That message, I think, is the foundation of my work advocating against being an activist and a scholar whose work from the very beginning has opposed racism and wanted to create, and along with social movements, a vision of a society that wasn't hierarchical, that didn't oppress people by race, that didn't have a group that was dominant based on false thinking about their superiority. So fundamentally, I think that my parents' view of humanity did shape my thinking, even though my father in particular, his view of interracial marriage didn't.
Yeah.
Now, I did go through a period, though, especially when I was in college, where I didn't want anyone to know I had a white father. And if you look at my scholarship, I don't bring in the fact that I have a white father. I don't really touch on interracial intimacy, other than to say, if there's anything about interracial intimacy in my scholarship, it's about the sexual exploitation of Black women by white enslavers. So in a way, my scholarship and my advocacy, which has always focused primarily on Black women have been my comrades in both fighting for reproductive justice and also fighting for family justice and against family policing.
Yeah.
So I've, in a way, even though I was very close to my father, I haven't really made his identity or my partial, European ancestry really relevant to my work. And in fact, for a long time, I didn't want anyone to know I had a white father because I wanted to be seen solely as a Black woman.
When you started telling that story, you know what I thought about?
Yeah.
I literally just a week ago watched for the 10 millionth time Imitation of Life.
Oh, yeah.
It's different. It's Sarah Jane, of course, not wanting folks to know her mama is Black.
Right.
In your case, it's not want people to know your daddy is white.
Yes.
But that movie, I've seen it more times than I can count, and I cry every time I see it.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I was thinking of that when you said that. Of course, I must have known I had a white father and a black mother, but there are some children who have a black parent who are raised to ignore the black parent and to identify as white.
Yeah.
I even had a recent book talk where a young lady in the audience who to me appeared to be black, and she told me she had a white mother and a black father raised in a white neighborhood and was raised to be white, and I thought it was kind of strange because she looked black to me, but you can be taught these things. This is what some of the white mothers in the 1930s interviews were saying about how they did not want their children to identify as colored. And one woman even said, it was a terrible shock when I had to tell my children they were colored because that's how they were being treated outside the home. But up till then, she had been telling them that they were something other than colored and better than what she called full colored children. So there are, very different ways that people identify when they have a mixed ancestry. Of course, a lot of people who have one black parent and one white parent want to identify as black, as biracial or multiracial. Since I was very little, I didn't want to be seen that way. I wanted to be seen as black.
No, I get it. When we come forward, I do want to press a little harder on this because I think the audience may be feeling what I'm feeling here, and that is I don't know that I have an answer yet to how your father tapped into that depth of humanity. Now, we may disagree on his view of what interracial marriage could do and for the country and could mean, well-intentioned though he may have been. But I'm still searching for how a white guy in the 50s finds his way to the depth of that kind of humanity. That's impressive to me for a white guy to do that then. Say nothing of whether or not he would have ever met your mother. To your point, he was into this research before he ever met your mama and a decade before he married her. How does a white guy become so enlightened, if I can put it that way, then? That's what I'm fascinated by. You're listening to Dorothy Roberts on Tavis Smiley.
From Leimert Park with love, this is Tavis Smiley.
My mom has decided to learn to paint, and she's good.
My dad's now into creative cuisine, and I've already put on 6 pounds.
Learning new things comes with age.
My mom, she started forgetting my name and what we're talking about.
Forgetting well-known things doesn't. Memory loss may be a sign of Alzheimer's disease. Early detection gives you and your loved one time to plan for the future. Learn the warning signs of Alzheimer's at 10signs.org. Brought to you by the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
Hey there, Los Angeles. This is James Lucky Jr., publisher and editor of Los Angeles News Observer. Are you hungry for news that matters to you in the African-American communities of Los Angeles? Well, buckle up, because we got the scoop you've been craving. Stay in the know and never miss a beat with our free weekly publications conveniently available near you. Or hop on the digital wave and become an exclusive subscriber at OGNSC.com. Don't forget to join the party on Instagram and Twitter at OGNSCINC for behind-the-scenes access and sizzling updates. No more FOMO. Let's stay informed, connected, and empowered together.
All the women who independent, throw your hands up at me.
This March, we're turning up the volume on the women who changed everything. KBLA Talk 1580 is proud to celebrate Women's History Month, honoring the trailblazers, truth tellers, and game changers who shaped our world, our culture, and our community. From the freedom fighters to the firsts, from the boardroom to the front lines, from the unsung to the unforgettable. All month long, we're celebrating the stories, the voices, and the conversations that remind us that women, Black women, have always led the way. Don't miss a moment. This is our moment. This is our story. Stay tuned to KBLA Talk 1580, Los Angeles' home for the conversations that matter.
I'm your girl, you're my girl, we your girls. Won't you know that we love you?
And we're live here outside the Perez family home, just waiting for the... And there they go, almost on time this morning. Mom is coming out the front door strong with a double-arm kid carry. Looks like Dad has the bags. Daughter is bringing up the rear. Oh, but the diaper bag wasn't closed. Diapers and toys are everywhere. Ooh, but Mom has just nailed the perfect car seat buckle for the toddler. And now the eldest daughter, who looks to be about 9 or 10, has secured herself in the booster seat. Dad zips the bag closed, and they're off. But looks like Mom doesn't realize her coffee cup is still on the roof of the car. And there it goes. Oh, that's a shame. That mug was a fam favorite.
Don't sweat the small stuff. Just nail the big stuff. Like making sure your kids are buckled correctly in the right seat for their age and size. Learn more at nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Freedom is an endless meeting. So let's get back to it with Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Dorothy Roberts. The book is called The Mixed Marriage Project, a memoir of love, race, and family. I cannot do justice to this amazing piece of work, even in 60 minutes, but I want to cover a few more, a little bit more territory and ground if I can here. Let me ask you very quickly how we process your father finding his way to that depth of humanity as a white male then, Professor Roberts?
Yes, well, that was the first question that struck me when I discovered he'd begun these interviews in the 1930s when he was only in his 20s, knowing that he'd grown up in the Logan Square neighborhood of Chicago, which was a white segregated neighborhood. During that time, white mobs would keep Black people out of white neighborhoods. So, you know, there was the Red Summer of 1919 that was what they called it a race riot, but it was really a white terror attack on Black people in Chicago. And so I had to think about, as I'm writing my memoir, what could be the source of this. I'll mention also my father's younger brother, my Uncle Edward, disowned my father when he married my mother, and I never met him. I didn't grow up with those cousins, even though they lived in Chicago. So it was really a mystery. But there's one major thing that I think shaped my father's views, and that was when he was 16 years old and had graduated from high school. His grandmother took him on an around-the-world trip to India, where his aunt was a missionary in a tiny little village in the northeast corner of India, and he spent 6 months living in this village. Now, I think some teenagers would have kicked and screamed, but my father was really interested in the culture of this village and even adopting aspects of the culture. He wanted to learn the language. He wanted the clothing that they were wearing. He made friends with the children there. And I'm not sure what gave him that open mind, but I'm sure that living in a village in India for 6 months helped to shape his views of humanity, of racial caste, of discrimination, that sort of thing. And then in college, he went to a community college. His parents didn't pay for his college education. He had to work during the day and go to college at night at the YMCA college, which was very diverse. It had a significant number of Black and Jewish students. Right. And so I think that's also where he was shaped. He might have been very different if he never went to India. Yeah. If he went to an elite, I got you, all white Ivy League school, predominantly white. Maybe in those days it was virtually all white Ivy League school. Do you know what I'm saying? He had these experiences. And I can see from papers he wrote in college, even at age 17, he was writing about his white privilege and how wrong that was, and how people who weren't white were just as capable. They just were discriminated against. Even women, he said, it's true for men and women too.
Could I just say, Yeah, I think you'll take my point. I'm glad he didn't go to UPenn then.
Exactly.
I'm so glad he didn't go to UPenn back then. Our remaining moments with Dorothy Roberts when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
Helping to stretch your moral and political imagination. This is Tavis Smiley. KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 connecting you with services and solutions. The midterm elections are upon us. It is voting season once again. Common Cause's motto is fighting for the democracy we deserve. In service of that goal, Common Cause puts its state and national policy expertise, massive network of grassroots supporters, and nonpartisan approach into action to strengthen our democracy against the challenges we face today. They work at every level of government on priorities that impact each of our lives, like defending the right to vote, limiting big money's influence on our elections, holding public officials accountable, and more. Common Cause is a nonpartisan grassroots organization dedicated to upholding the core values of American democracy. They seek to empower all people to make their voices heard in the political process. This election may be the most important one ever. If you'd like to make a donation or volunteer in service to the Constitution, please visit commoncause.org. That's commoncause.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
My son loves to fly kites, but my active psoriatic arthritis can sometimes hold me back. Now with Skyrizi to treat my skin and joints, I'm ready to go. Skyrizi, risankizumab Riza, a prescription-only 150 milligram injection for adults, helps with less joint pain, stiffness, swelling, and fatigue. For those who also have plaque psoriasis, 90% clearer skin is possible with just 4 doses a year after 2 starter doses.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions and an increased risk of infections or a lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check for infection and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms such as fever, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, or if you plan to or recently received a vaccine.
With Skyrizi, there's nothing like clearer skin and better movement, and that means everything. Ask your doctor about Skyrizi today and visit skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKYRIZI to learn more.
Real talent is defined by what people can do, not where they learn to do it. So by stopping at the education section of a resume, you might throw away the perfect hire. You might miss someone who has valuable skills to offer to help your business thrive right now and in the future. Because the truth is this. Skills First Hiring helps you see talent others miss, like more than 70 million stars, skilled through alternative routes. When you let their story unfold, you gain a competitive advantage, because hiring managers who start with skills are 60% more likely to find a successful hire. See the real person, complete. See what others miss. Hire skills first. Learn why it's a competitive advantage at tearthepaperceiling.org. Brought to you by Opportunity at Work and the Ad Council.
Sometimes he fails at fitting in, but we're okay with that. You're inside the Tavis Smiley Show.
You are indeed. What an amazing conversation this has been. If you missed any part of it, check out the podcast when it's posted tonight. I've got 3 minutes left. I want to yield every minute of it to Professor Dorothy Roberts. What did you learn about Dorothy Roberts in writing this memoir?
Oh, well, one thing I learned was the way in which some of those very basic lessons about our common humanity are threaded throughout my work as an adult. I think I hadn't really appreciated that as much as I did while reading through the interviews and my parents' notes and thinking about the lessons they taught me growing up. I also learned about myself that I regretted the way in which I dismissed my father's contribution to my identity. Again, I identify as a Black woman, but I thought that I'd have to ignore him, dismiss him, hide him from other people in order to be a fully Black woman. And I regret that I treated him that way, not to his face, not in public, although I did write an essay that said that I found in the file. As I said, we were very, very close, but I regret that I felt I had to deny part of my upbringing and a person I love dearly in order for people to accept that I'm Black. And so that was something I learned. I reconciled more with my identity as a Black woman with a white father by working on this memoir.
The memoir is called The Mixed Marriage Project, a memoir of love, race, and family, brought to us by the UPenn Law and Sociology professor and founding director of the Penn Program on Race, Science, and Society, Dorothy Roberts. This is an amazing conversation. It always is whenever we connect, whether on TV or radio. I'm always thrilled to be in conversation with you. I always learn so much from you, and I'm so grateful that you finally got around to writing this memoir. Thank you for this hour, Professor Roberts. What a great honor it's been to have you on the program.
Thank you, Tavis. The honor is all mine. Thank you so much.
You are very kind. Just like that, 3 hours are gone. We're back here tomorrow, Lord willing, to do it all over again. Until tomorrow, thanks for tuning in to Tavis Smiley. And as always, keep the faith.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. About a dozen